Good morning, good morning. Look at that. Lovely marula trees silhouetted by this gorgeous sunrise. Nothing beats it and it never gets old. It's quite chilly out here today on Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in the western fringes of the Kruger. It's about 12 degrees Celsius or 54 degrees Fahrenheit. My name is Trishalda and I've got Theo on camera and we are very ready to take you on the best safari of your life, we're hoping, on CGTN's digital safari, and we are going to go. Let us see what else the bush has to offer besides a gorgeous sunrise. And remember, you can chat to us. Yesterday I said to you, have your questions ready, have your comments ready, so you can use that hashtag CGTNWild or the hashtag WildEarth, and you can talk to us and we can answer all of your questions. We can have some marvelous discussions and of course see some animals. So what's our plan for today? Well, here in Djuma, we're thinking we're going to drive around a little bit and look for signs, some tracks, hopefully listen out for some alarm calls or some actual sawing or roaring, and find us some predators, as well as all of the tiny little things, all the things that make a safari just what it is. We'll look at some trees, some birds, and all of that. And that's just what's going on here. Remember, we're coming to you from many locations up in the Maasai Mara, down in South Africa as well, each with its own beauty to offer. Ooh, look at this. Some fork-tailed drongos are starting off their morning. Now these are very, very, very common birds here. And you'll often see them following other animals. And there's some more down here, illuminated by the sun. They're looking for little insects. I also see some red-billed buffalo weavers. All of these animals love to hang out here on quarantine where they can get tasty breakfast for the morning.
Hello, here we have our first animal of the day in the beautiful Maasai Mara. A very good morning, everyone. Hope you had a good night, or maybe you're still out there. Good morning. My name is Isaac, and on camera I have Big James. And this morning we are out here to entertain you with all the animals we can find. And to start with, we have the tallest one in Africa, and I think in the world, the Maasai giraffe. And he is on duty very early this morning. He's doing, he's cleaning the undergrowth. Sometimes you wonder when you look at these trees why they are so worn out from the, underneath. The giraffe does that. They do the underbrowsing, make sure there's no hanging leaves, hanging branches, and that is what they do best. That is a male giraffe, and he's happy getting into the bushes there to find more chewy, more, fresh leaves that have been growing. There is another one there. Mind you, when they get into the bushes, they can blend in really, really well. Over there is about 7 or 8. They passed me, and they're already in there. He's a very big boy, that one. You can tell, his height. He's got almost a horn growing on his forehead. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah, you can see the vertebrae next to the head can almost, fold straight up, and so they can reach for the tallest, little, fresh leaves. I'm staying here with the giraffes. Don't go anywhere.
Good morning and welcome to and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. My name is Damon, and behind the camera this morning we've got Craig. And myself and Craig have come out this morning in search of Cheetah, and luckily one of the other vehicles that's been out was able to find this beautiful female cheetah behind us. And look at that carcass there in front of her. So she's obviously been very busy this morning and has been successful in her hunting attempts. She's caught a young Impala. And looking at her belly, and also have a look at the back of that Impala where she's been feeding, it looks like she's already eaten quite a bit, so she must have made this kill a bit earlier this morning. See the leg there? I apologize everyone if you are sensitive. Now would be a good time to look away. Apologies. Look at how twitchy she is. Every little increase in wind speed, she looks around just to check if there's any approaching danger. There's been a couple of little side-striped jackals that have been hanging around, hoping to get some scraps. I think two little jackals are probably not going to be of any threat to her. She's much bigger than they are. And also these side-striped jackals behaving quite timidly, not rushing in and trying to steal from her. She's got a lovely vantage point where she is. Quite an open patch of ground. Luke, you're asking where the cubs are. So Luke, this is not one of those female cheetah that we've been following so closely for the last few months that has cubs. She's a relatively young female. I don't know, Luke, if you were watching us a couple of weeks ago where we watched a female cheetah chase a herd of zebra and wildebeest into a herd of rhinos and cause a mass stampede. This is that same female cheetah, Luke. So she's a young female that's moved into this area from the far north of our game reserve. And she's come here in search of, well, we think in search of a mate. We saw her the other day quite close to the two dominant males in this area. I'm hoping that she did mate with them. And in which case she might soon become, within the next 3 months' time, she might become a first-time mum. She is at the age where she is able to mate and have cubs. So very exciting. That beautiful spotted coat, and that very puffed out chest, of course, houses those big lungs she can use for running so fast. Might be able to hear some Egyptian geese in the background busy honking, making a big noise, the male and female calling to each other first thing in the morning. Once again, just kind of scanning around. I think myself and Craig are going to spend a little bit more time with this cheetah. She's an absolutely beautiful light, and when you come back to us, maybe she'll be feeding again.
Jumbo Jumbo, hello, and very good luck to that cheetah. You never know what she could be looking for. Sometimes early mornings they usually go to get themselves some breakfast. Now we are in the Maasai Mara on the Mara river banks, and we got different animals for you. And we got a group of hippopotamus right on the edge of the Mara river. If you listen carefully, you can hear the falls of the river, because upstream where the river comes from, which is very close to my village, there were big rains in the last 2 days. The water levels here have gone rather high than they were 2 days ago, because we are just along this river every other day. Let's listen to the falls for a few seconds. Very therapeutic, Very refreshing to hear the sound along the Mara River. This is one of my favorite spots. The times I come here on lucky days, and if there'll be wildebeest building up, they love to cruise from this point. Now, in the months of June, July, August, going to October, our story here is always about the wildebeest migration, and let us learn more about the same.
From the southern plains of the Serengeti, over 1 million grazers move northwest through the western corridor, gathering along the banks of the Grumeti River. Once the chaos of the rut comes to an end, the herds gallop north once again. In time, more than 2 million animals amount to feast on the abundance the Mara has to offer. But the reward of the red oat grass does not come easy. The zebra vanguard is the first on the banks, taking the plunge into the treacherous Mara River in order to reach the untouched long grass plains on the other side. Not only must they face the turbulent waters, but also the crocodiles, gliding through the rapids in anticipation. Then comes the body of the migration, the thundering herds of the white-bearded wildebeest, with their bleats echoing through the landscape while in search for greener pastures. Hunger, so too are the lions of the Mara, who patrol the banks of the river. The risks are known, but the herds are determined. All must make the leap. Some will fall, but for the survivors, the lush greenery that awaits is bountiful. And then, as is nature's way, it comes the time to cross the river again as they continue to follow the life-giving storms and nourishing plains.
These impala lead a far less dramatic life than the antelope up in the Mara. No crossings for them. No migration patterns for them. But things do heat up, especially when a predator is around. And I've also always said this to you, that I enjoy watching them just in case there's some clues that they want to offer us. Eating away. Now you might wonder, why are they eating the grass? So these are mixed feeders. So they eat leaves, other vegetation, as well as grass. So why is it going after this very dry grass when there's a nice green tree just above it? And that's because some trees are just not eaten very much by antelope because they have a high tannin content. And a magic quarry is definitely one of them. And that's the bush that you see this little impala eating away under. So you see patches of green, but they're not patches that animals will eat. They will eat it in desperation, however. And that desperation can sometimes kill them because tannins can interfere with proper digestion. Two years ago, dry season, we had quite a few antelopes that were dead. And that was a result of it being such a harsh dry season that they were starting to eat lots of tanniny bushes. But these guys are still eating away at the grass, so they've learned a little from last time.
Myself and Craig are still sitting with this female cheetah. Not much has changed. She hasn't started to feed again, and I think, like we saw earlier, it looked like her belly was already pretty full, and she does appear to have finished off the rump of the carcass. Have a look on the left-hand side of it. See, I know it's quite a gruesome sight, but See how the leg is kind of twisted off to the side there. And that's of course where she would have fed first, because that's kind of the biggest muscle in the body. She would have wanted to have finished that first. Starlight, you're asking why cheetah don't hide their kills under bushes. Starlight, they do sometimes. I don't know if you were watching us a couple of days ago when we were filming that mother cheetah and her 2 cubs. She did drag her kill underneath a bush, but that was quite a bit later in the morning. So I suppose this female cheetah, having killed this impala so early, when she knows it's unlikely that there's going to be scavenging birds like vultures and bateliers and yellow-billed kites flying around, because they're quite big birds, they need thermals and they need wind to help to keep them in the air without them wasting energy flapping the whole time. I think she's maybe realized that and doesn't feel it's necessary for her to drag her kill into a bush just yet. If she's going to continue feeding, she might do that. There's a big thicket of lala palms next to her. She might drag it towards there, or she might take it into some long grass and kind of rake the grass over the top of the carcass. I suppose also the fact that the sun has just come up, and the fact that she's eaten so much of it already tells us that she's killed this. It must have still been pretty dark when she killed it. And of course, with the darkness, there are other bigger cats moving around, bigger predators, leopards, lions, and of course hyenas as well. And perhaps taking that kill into a thicket, maybe not for her the most enticing idea, seeing as that's where things like leopards might be moving around.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll have them back in no time. This impala has been staring in that direction for a long, long time. In fact, throughout our last segment, and even since then, and now she's still staring off into that drainage. And there are some Franklins shouting as well. But that was a little closer to the dam. So I'm going to sit here and just watch what happens. Because more often than not, if you sit in one spot, things can sometimes come to you. But you can see she's still chewing. So she's not alert enough for her to stop everything else. Whoop, there comes the cud. Oh, it's so cool when they do that. It's like magic. Alright, I'm going to stay here and watch them for a little bit, see what happens.
Wow, Trish, you're having the most exhilarating morning, but we are also having one here at Pridelands because we're surrounded by elephants. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Romby, and I've just lost the call to the directors, but that's fine, we'll just carry on talking. So with my absolute favorite herd of elephants that are just moving in to the distance, but we are going to try and catch up to them. You can kind of just see them there, but we're left with a couple of bulls, but they're the cows and the little ones moving down a little bit to the east. So I think we should get another good view of them. But they've been very busy. They came around to camp last night and had a drink, and then they chased a whole herd of buffalo. There must have been about 50 buffalo. And they're notorious for being big and scary. Elephants didn't care. They chased them around, created quite a bit of dust, and I don't know where the buffalo have now gone, but I'm glad we've managed to relocate on this herd. So this elephant is not a part of the herd. He is a young bull, and I suspect why there are so many young bulls hanging around this herd is because there's a young cow that we can't say for sure, but her behavior and her interactions with the bulls are a little bit different from what they normally are. So I think that she's coming into estrus for the first time. So she's quite a cheeky lass, and she gives us a hard time, and her behavior has got progressively worse. So I'm hoping that a bull of choice can come through and sort her out. And hopefully that will change her attitudes. But this bull over here, he theoretically should not be mating with any elephants because there are much bigger bulls in the area. But if they have not picked up on her scent or heard her singing her estrus song, then, well, they might miss out because she doesn't know any better. She's not an experienced cow that would normally want something like that. But anyways, elephants doing what elephants do and feeding. They have to do this pretty much the entire day. About 19 hours of their day is spent eating. And at this time of the year, it is a lot harder for them. So even though they are eating for that many hours, they're definitely not taking in as many calories as they should be. Yes, we do not have the call with the directors, I'm afraid, so I'm just going to keep rambling on until I'm told otherwise. There we go. Apologies for the doodle-doo, doodle-doo. It's like in the movies, where they tell you to please turn your phones on silent, but we need to have them so we can hear them ring if we are in a sighting. Apologies for that. They are nice and soft though. So yeah, so he's going to stay back here. He's not going to get too involved with the herd because there are some really big cows, and they've also really this morning showed to not be very tolerant of any of the elephants. And we will try and get a better position once this bull moves off of the road. Animals, of course, have right of way out here. And then we'll reposition. But there's another younger bull which has actually got some tusk marks. He's been hit fairly hard, most likely by a cow, probably being reprimanded to the point where it's actually drawn a little bit of blood. But the elephant cows are very important for disciplining the elephant bulls, especially when they're younger, because they can get out of line quite quickly, which is why they end up leaving the herd and going on their own. It's just, you can imagine being bullied and pushed around every single day, constantly. It's enough to drive you to go somewhere else. So that's what these bulls are doing. But he's not too young. He's very tall. He's kind of out of proportion, don't you think, Seb? He's got very long legs like a supermodel. I mean, elephants can get particularly tall. You know, they stand at a few meters high, but you can see that his body hasn't filled out just yet. So he's got these really, really long legs, but a very short body, very much like how a 16-year-old, most 16-year-olds look. But that body is going to expand, and he'll get much, much bigger. He'll probably get double his size. I'm glad that you are all enjoying the elephants. They're, of course, my absolute favorite animal in Africa, especially when you've got the gorgeous golden glow first thing in the morning. That makes it all better. But he's thoroughly enjoying whatever tree he is feeding on. He's just snapping little branches. This area is filled with red bush willows and some marula trees. And what else? We've got a couple of apple leaves and things like that, and lots of sickle bush. But predominantly they're feeding on the bush willows at this time of the year. Hello, young Kimberly, who's just 10 years old. Now, you asked a question about how strong are elephants? Sorry, I missed the last part. But elephants are... how strong are their tusks? Well, he's got a broken one. So they are very, very strong. So that is essentially a tooth that is growing out of his face, the tusks. But they just don't use them like how we use tooth. We don't use... Sorry, they don't use their tusks how we use our teeth, or they use their normal teeth, their molars, to grind up their food. It is particularly tough. They are quite strong, but if they hit them hard enough, whether it's from fighting with another elephant, or perhaps it breaks when they're tearing the bark off of a tree, that can also be a bit of a problem. But it's very strong stuff. If you ever pick up a small piece of ivory, you find it often in the bush, just little bits of it, and it's really, really heavy. So, you can kind of hit it quite hard, and maybe a small chip will come out. So you can imagine how hard they must have smacked it for his right tusk like that to have broken. That's probably from fighting with another elephant bull, though, because they do get quite rough. Now, I'm hoping that this elephant bull just moves a little bit more to the left and catches up with the rest of the herd so we can go around and see them from the front.
Welcome back, everyone. This female cheetah has just started to feed again on this Impala carcass. But something seems to have distracted her. See how she's looking over her shoulder? Looking down the airstrip? Whatever it was, that doesn't seem to be of too much concern for her. And once again, look at that tummy. Look at how fat it is, my goodness me. It's extending all the way past her back legs. Normally in a cheetah, if it's got an empty belly, if it hasn't eaten for a while, that tummy tucks up into the pelvis area, kind of like a greyhound. But she's done very well. She's managed to fill her tummy. There we go. So look what she's doing now, kind of grabbing the neck of the carcass. Trying to get some purchase on it. So we said that she's eaten all the rump already. And a little bit into the back towards the rear end, and now she'll be moving on to kind of the next big muscle mass of the carcass, the shoulder region. Let's see how she's not really feeding busily. She's obviously really quite full, so there's not as much pressure on her to wolf her food down. When she first killed this Impala, she might have fed quite quickly and quite aggressively, trying to get as much meat into her body as possible, just in an attempt to minimize, to get as much food in before something comes along and takes the kill from her. We've spoken extensively about how vulnerable a cheetah is to having its meal taken from it. There we go, look at how she's turning her face sideways, using those specially designed teeth in the back of her mouth, the carnassial shear, like a pair of scissors to cut away through the hide. Cut through the flesh. And very neat as she feeds. Look at that. I don't know if any of you were watching yesterday afternoon. We were watching those lions busy feeding on that Wildebeest, and how those cubs were literally climbing inside the carcass, lying in the carcass, lying on top of it, and getting very dirty, covered in blood and stomach contents and all kinds of things. But look at how this cheetah, look at how comparatively clean she is. The next time she lifts her head, everybody, have a close look at her nose. You might be able to see a bit of blood around her muzzle and on her nose. But aside from that, she's pretty clean. She hasn't, it's a little bit of a different feeding style. Sarah, you're saying that her head looks too small for her body. You're absolutely right, Sarah. Often with cheetah, they do look like they're out of proportion a little bit, especially females, with them having slightly smaller heads in relation to their body size. But I suppose that it's just, of course, an adaptation to being able to run fast. Of course, there can't be a scrap of excess or wasted space on this animal if she is to be able to reach the top speeds that these cheetah are capable of. So all just a kind of evolutionary adaptation to being able to run fast. But there are lots of vehicles that are all very keen to come and see this cheetah, and we've been super spoiled with our sighting of her. So myself and Craig are going to leave her to continue with her meal and head off to go see what else we can find for the morning.
Okay, welcome back, guys. I've just been tracking this herd of buffalo, and all of a sudden I picked up those two male lions. They are very keenly looking at the buffalo. The buffalo are very unaware that there is lions, and you can tell the young male there is very curious, like choosing, looking at what to go for. There is some young calves. The wind is perfect. They are downwind, the lions. It's blowing from the buffalo to the lions. So I don't know what might happen, but this is one very difficult game if they decide to go to. Buffaloes don't give in or give up that easily. Also, it can be interesting if the buffalo picks up they're there they will be chased. So it can get interesting anytime. Typical, and as usual, we have lots of cattle egrets, and they are making sure that the ticks, mites, grasshoppers spooked by the buffalo are taken care of. Remember, I'm live from the Maasai Mara. Talk to us on CGTN Wild or hashtag Wild Earth. You can get me there. Talk to me about, about anything about the Maasai Mara. Yes, they might have some breakfast, please. Yeah, let's sit back and hope something interesting happens. Yes, and the weather today is really, really nice, as you can tell. The sun is coming out. I think it's going to be a hot day by midday. It's around 27 degrees Celsius. Quite beautiful. I don't know what might happen here. The buffalo don't have a clue there is lions there. Melanie, you ask me, what are those white birds? They are called cattle egrets. Cattle egrets, associated to cattle. They eat the mites, and also they ride jockey on cattle backs and buffalo backs. And it's a symbiotic relation between the cattle and them, but also they can be found amongst buffalo, wildebeest. They can be found amongst many, different herbivores or grazers. Cattle egrets, they are. Okay, what's happening there? The lion has lied down. I don't know what's the strategy. Remember, lions have been called or termed as opportunists. So, for example, they were just there, then all of a sudden the buffalo appeared, and so they're looking if there is potential for them to have a meal. I have seen them, and many guides have seen them, where they just be sitting and a warthog appears or a topi, and they take full advantage to bring it down. So this could be, an opportunity for them either to get a meal or, to be chased away. I would say, it can go either way, because there's lots of young ones here, and the buffalo will not, go down easy with young ones. They're very, very, very aggressive. Yeah, there's quite a good number of buffalo. Sorry, you broke down there. I didn't hear the question, so if you can frame it again. Sebastian, thank you for your question. I must tell you that I have seen that many, many, many times, and one memorable one, yes, was in a park called Amboseli. It's in the border of Kenya, Tanzania, just at the, the floor of Mount Kilimanjaro. And two male lions had brought down a weakly-looking buffalo, and it was mooing and trying to struggle. Then another bull appeared out of the blue, and it helped the other one, and they chased away the lions. So it's not the first time I'm telling you this, but I've seen them many times defend themselves against, lions. They are not easy to bring down. It will take at least 6 lionesses, and not only that easy, it will take about half an hour to 45 minutes to really tire it down. They have to come from behind and from different angles, really disturb it, annoy it, make sure it is tired before bringing it down. Nobody ever comes and faces it from the front, because those horns are very lethal. They can, pierce through a lion's skin like, knife on butter. So it's a fearless animal, very aggressive and very strong. They do defend themselves. And what you see here, it is called a breeding herd. And a breeding herd has, females, half-grown calves, and old bulls. So it's a mixture of everybody. As you can see, it's a very big one. It's a good 100. I'm staying here, so don't go very far. Don't go anywhere.
Well, thank you, Isaac, and welcome back to South Africa, everybody, to Djuma and the Unkuhuma Pride. Now, if anybody knows how to take down buffalo, it's this pride. They're experts at it. The adult lioness have been hunting buffalo for years, and the cubs, who are all a year and just under, have all got the taste for buffalo now, and they're learning the tricks of the trade. This pride was on the other side of Simbambili yesterday. They'd killed a zebra the night before, and it just goes to show the movements that can take place. They moved many kilometers in the night. When we arrived to find them shortly, a little while ago, they did look, that little cub there is looking a little bloodied. It's hard to tell. The bellies of the lions don't look full, but there are blood stains, which means they've probably eaten something in the night. A lot happens under the cover of darkness that unless you actually spend the entire night with lions, you really don't know. I once followed a pride of lions from 7 in the evening until 7 the next morning, and they killed 6 times. And they end up pretty close to where they started, and then all the people come out on game drive in the morning and think, oh, these lazy lions. But in fact, they've covered an enormous area, and they've hunted. Those are just the animals they caught. They chased many unsuccessfully. And with all the grooming that's taking place, with the 2 cubs anyway, it's evident that something... Oh, there we go. There's a leg bone. Is it a leg? Or is it a stick? I think it's a leg. Probably an Impala. Very small little leg. That wouldn't have gone very far. That would have been an hors d'oeuvre. Darcy, and apparently one of the males is here. We haven't yet seen him. So I will definitely show him to you when we reposition. We got in and we got to a nice position here with these lions in the light, but a lot of them are actually quite hidden in the sort of shade of the tree. But it does appear to be the whole pride, and there definitely is a male, but I haven't seen him yet. So we will find him for you, and we will have some time to move around and reposition. It's a good start. Lions in the early morning. It's definitely one of my favorite things to track down and find is a pride of lion. Okay, so we're going to stay here with the Unkuhuma pride, who I know we all just love.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda. Myself and Craig have found a big flock of yellow-fronted canaries. And look at how they're all hopping around on the ground there, busy pecking at the spaces in between the grass, looking for seeds to feed on. And there's quite a big flock spread out across the road here. Of course, in the open here, on the edge of the grassland, it's easy for them to see the little seeds that they're after. And oftentimes, during the dry times of the year, we often see canaries as well as other seed-eating birds congregating in bigger numbers around food sources and around water. And we actually stopped here just to scan. I mean, these are incredibly beautiful birds. Look at the yellow on the faces. You might be able to see that some of the birds are slightly more brightly colored than the others. And those will be the males that are slightly more brightly colored with more yellow on the face. The females a little bit duller with more grey. And I'll show you in the bird book just now what I mean. So here is a close-up of the yellow-fronted canary. So see there the male with that very bright yellow all over his body and that beautiful yellow eyebrow and almost like a moustache stripe. And then by contrast the female over there, a lot more grey, still with a bit of yellow on her throat and on her belly. But the reason why we stopped to scan this flock is the yellow-fronted canary being quite a common bird throughout the eastern parts of South Africa. Often in these flocks of yellow-fronted canaries at this time of year, we do see the odd lemon-breasted canary. And we've spoken a couple of times about them, how they're a very special bird and a bird that's endemic to the Maputoland coastal plain. Those of you that were watching us a couple of weeks ago, we managed to find a nest of one in a lala palm. And we're trying really hard to try and find you a bird in the flesh. And often at this time of year, your best bet is to look into a flock of yellow-fronted canaries and scan very carefully for the lemon-breasted canary. It looks very similar, but see here the lemon-breasted only with a yellow on the throat, and then white on the belly as opposed to yellow, and the female quite a bit duller with hardly any yellow at all on her body, just on her rump there. A couple of you saying that they look a bit like budgies. I suppose they do, especially the yellow-fronted canaries with that kind of the patches of grey and yellow all over them. Still a few of them hopping around on the road there, but yeah, unfortunately no lemon-breasted canary this time. Still very pretty to see these yellow-fronted canaries though. And just while we've been sitting here, we've heard in the distance a kudu alarm calling, a very deep barking sound coming from the west. And I think we're going to leave these canaries and we're going to head in the direction of those alarm calls to see what's causing that kudu distress.
Welcome back, everybody. Kudu distresses are often a very, very reliable indicator of a predator. Could be a lion, could be a leopard. Well, what our lioness is looking at there, we're not going to change the frame at the moment because it's going to be a little bit awkward, but that lioness is looking directly at a very curious hyena that has no idea how his life is balancing on the edge at the moment. The Nkuhuma pride does not like hyenas. I've seen them charge and chase them, and they often have the intention of killing them. Hyenas are obviously a risk to their cubs, but it's that eternal enemies sort of thing, where the hyena and lion are at a pitched battle through evolution for who dominates the open plains. Hello, Lime. You want to know how many on this pride? Well, they are most of the time 7 lionesses together, and then 9 cubs. So 16, and then there is one boy with them currently. I haven't yet seen him. He's behind the bush here, and apparently he's very flat. So we're not going to reposition until we absolutely need to. This is the best view we've got at the moment of the pride. So often there's 2 boys, dominant males that is, hanging out with the pride. 7 adults. One adult has sort of become quite nomadic, and after chatting with some of the other guides, they say each time she tries to join the pride, the dominant males give her an absolute hiding. So we'll see if we can count. I haven't managed to count yet. There's just lions everywhere. But we will eventually get a tally. We're going to try and spend as much time with this pride as we can.
Welcome back, guys. And we are here, and looks like the lions have retreated back. I don't know if you can see them on the top screen over there. They have decided that there is no use to take a chance. It's too dangerous. And they're only 2, but the herd of buffalo is over 150. You can see them, they're really see, the buffaloes are going for them. Look, the buffalo are going for the lions. There we go. They have smelled them and they are going for them. See that? It is very typical. Lions are very, buffalo are very aggressive, and they're not intimidated by buffalo or by a lion when they smell them, especially when they're big head like this. They're very lucky. They've escaped, but the buffalo are going. Look at that. This is the power of numbers. Just a few picked up that there was danger. Oh, see the lion there? Okay, now, yeah, they have been seen. Let's see what's going to happen. Yeah, buffaloes are not intimidated when they're in this numbers. Look at that beautiful picture of the egrets, the buffalo. Yeah, well, it might be too dangerous for the buffalo to get close, but mind you, if they do decide to come out, they will have no chance against these buffaloes. That is a very good area they've got tucked themselves in, so they'll be able to be away from, the buffalo. Are they moving further up, the lions? No, they're in that bush. It's a teklia bush, very thick. It's one of the medicinal trees we have here in the Mara. We'll be talking about trees in the near future, trees of the Mara. Yeah, definitely you can see that not all buffaloes saw the lions. A few saw the others, like the ones way behind here, are like what just happened there. Yeah, what happened, they're not sure what's going on, so they're just standing there confused. But the ones in front there coming back, they did for sure see the lions. It's too steep, too rocky, and also too risky because you don't know where the lion is, so they're just hoping. Yeah, it's just hoping that they come out, but they won't. Yeah, it's always nice to see the reaction of prey and predator. Yeah, or the hunter and hunted. Like I was telling you before, the association between the cattle. Oh, there they are. They've gone further up. There they are. They are retreating farther and farther. Yeah. Is that half-tail? The lion. Let me have a look with my binoculars. Yes, it is half-tail and kipuli. Those are the new coalition of the Owinos. One of the Owinos last year got killed, and so the old male formed a coalition with a younger male, and there they are. Look at that beautiful picture. Yeah, rubbing their scent onto those bushes, leaving a chemical or a fragrant that tells other people or other lions that this is our domain. Don't you dare come here, and we rule this area. Look at that. I would call it the Lion Rock. Yeah, it's very, lucky for us to have seen them before they went up there, because there's no way I could get up there. Beautiful. Look at that. Yeah, I think they have realized they have no chance against a big herd of buffalo like this. Continue watching, because it will be the last time we see them this morning. Once they go into the bushes, I'm sure the buffaloes are saying, "You are a chicken, calm down if you're a real lion." But there's no way lions are going to calm down. Yeah, that is a very beautiful sight. From where I am, I'm looking up. It's quite a distance, thanks to our powerful camera and our cameraman for that beautiful job. Yeah, remember, this is live. Yes, I'm gonna, maybe continue and find you something else, because once the lions disappear onto that long grass, I won't see them until next time, of which I don't know. It is nature, I cannot tell you. So I'm gonna move on and find something else for you. Don't you go anywhere.
Camera won't go wrong. Hey, David.
Oh, yeah.
And my name's Dylan. It's just wonderful having you along with us. Wherever you might be in the world, whatever your plans are today, just please enjoy it. Don't be shy to ask questions, whether it's about the geology. For those of you interested, it could be archaeology, it could be ecology, it could be something about a shell duck or a meerkat or a tree, or just whatever you feel like asking me, ask me. Just not my home address, please, or my cell phone number. But as for the rest, you're very, very, very welcome. But anyway, yeah, it's great having you along. I've got no plans this morning. It's still early. I need to think about these kind of things. I don't want to rush into it. But I'm very, very, very pleased to see. I'm very pleased to see. That was great English for those of you who are English students. I'm very pleased to see there are still 4 Shelby ducklings around. So that's one less thing to worry about this morning. And they're growing like a Boeing at the moment. So I'm actually pretty... Yeah, I'm not going to jinx it. Let me not say that I think they're all going to... Yeah, let me just keep quiet. So there's 4 ducklings at the moment and 2 adults. Yeah. Yeah. So we just had David just did a fantastic job. So to put in perspective, we're not going to have a look at it now, but the tower that this whole signal runs through is way up on top of this extremely high mountain here, and David actually walked all the way up there, risking life and limb yesterday to go replace the parts that needed to be replaced. So we are back, and we are in fine metal this morning. And it's great having you with us, man, as always. Exciting. But I also have something else exciting to, Oh, Rachel, beautiful question then. So Rachel has just asked, are there any dinosaur fossils in this area that we are? I wish there were. Unfortunately not, but not that far from us. Well, probably 800 kilometers away, straight line, 700k straight line. Then you start getting these incredible fossils in a central part of South Africa called the Karoo. And these Karoo, these sedimentary deposits there, are one of the best fossil areas in the world, in fact. And they've got a remarkable diversity of fossils there. We do have a fossil on Swalu, well, actually fossils, but we've looked at this one before. These are called stromatolites, these beautiful little circular patterns like that. And these have been dated to 1.9 to 2 billion years old. That's what all the literature says. That's what all the geologists say. We can debate that. But yeah, that's what that has been dated to. Now, those fossils are called stromatolites, and those are the ones, and we've kind of dabbled in this before. It's thanks to those that we all here today breathing oxygen, because those are the ones that first started getting the oxygen in the atmosphere for us. So yeah, so no dinosaur fossils, except for myself. But yeah, what an exciting morning. It's so good to be out, and I know our colleagues are already seeing some amazing things. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to see. But what I did see this morning on the way in is our blossoms on the acacias. So the acacias are starting to come out now. So we're going to keep our eyes open for those and hopefully get you some really, really good butterflies over the coming weeks.
Thank you very much, and you're back with us live in Djuma, where we have caught up with our male lion, who's lying off a little bit from the pride, because they don't really like hanging out with the cubs. The cubs see them as a plaything, and I'm almost certain, but not 100% from this angle, that this is the Avoca male, Blondie. But without seeing his face properly, I can't tell you for sure. So, impressive. We have 3 Avoca males. 2 of them are often with this pride. The other one is with the Talamati pride, who is up in the north. That is dark mane. He's the bigger of the 3. Then you get Blondie, which I believe is this. And then the third being Mohawk, who's got a little mohawk on his head. And where he is, I'm not sure. The last few days, the Nkuhuma pride have been on their own, and the 2 Avoca males were separated from them. But it seems like one male has found them. But last time that was the case, we looked hard enough, and the second male arrived, and the Evoker males have been here for 2.5 years. Let's go learn a little bit more about them.
The Sabi Sands is prime territory for tawny cats. Once of age, male lions leave their prides and form coalitions. The males are often of a similar age, forming a brotherly bond and aim to forge a territory of their own. The Djuma Pride lands are dominated by the Avoca coalition. The three landlords are quite easy to distinguish. One has a distinctively darker mane than the others, one a much lighter mane and a limp. Then there's a bad-tempered one with a mohawk and a set of teeth that are in much need of dental work. All three lions have mated with the resident Nkuhuma lionesses. But the Nkuhuma Pride is not their only responsibility. The Avoca's territory encompasses almost 100 square kilometers and 3 prides. The Avocas have made themselves at home not only with the Nkuhumas, but also the neighboring Talamati Pride. The vast territory and pride duties mean dividing forces to maintain control. In this way, the Avocas have ensured a continuation of their legacy. If all goes according to plan, the Avocas will reign over the territory for a long time. But nothing is certain in nature, and new rival coalitions could always be on the horizon.
Welcome back live to Djuma in the Cyber Sands, everybody. We are watching CGTN Digital Safari, and if you have any questions and comments, please feel free to send them through to hashtag CGTNWild or put them in on hashtag WildEarth. We are with the Avoca male, who I believe still, this is Blondie. You've learned a little bit about them now. And impressive young males that moved in. They didn't really have too much of a challenge when they moved in. And the Birmingham boys who were here before sort of just moved south and filled the vacuum that was created further south in the Sabi Sands. And there was one occasion when 2 of the Birmingham boys came up here, and there was definitely an altercation between them and the Avocas. We didn't see it. We just saw the injury and the blood afterwards and the limping. And since then, the Avocas have really established themselves and are definitely the dominant males of the Nkuhumas and the Talamati Pride. And we're not certain who else. They're the only 2 prides we rarely spend any time with, Nkuhumas for the most part. But there's a huge shift in dynamics, to be honest. Huge shift in the dynamics of the lions in the area. But the Nkuhumas have still stayed strong and central to this area.
We got 2 hippos here, and I think they have a little issue with them. And my guess is these are 2 bulls. Now, they're going for each other. So what happened is we saw both of them open their mouth and like they wanted, both of them opened their mouths and they wanted to bite each other, and they had all their huge teeth that are like ivory out. In general, in a group of hippos like this, that you'd call a bloat, you'll get anything between 10 to 20 hippos, and most of them will be females and they are young ones. But there'll be one male, the dominant male, who will be in charge of that particular group, and they normally defend it so well. They may allow, or sometimes they may tolerate other young males or other males in the group, but not for breeding purposes. Now, what I saw earlier is like maybe one of the new bulls wanted either to mate with one of the females, and the dominant male was not very impressed, and they went for each other. So the one you see in the back, I hope you had them calling there. Rich, you'd like to know if the crocs and the hippos respect each other's territory. Yes, they do. They do. But once in a while, you'll be surprised. We have seen crocodiles going for young hippos. If the situation is very dire and there is not much to eat, we have seen crocodiles, especially the big males, going for baby hippos. But ideally, you might be surprised to see hippos and crocodiles just like 5 meters apart, and everybody minding their own business. Hippos are herbivores, while crocs are carnivores. So we have seen them once in a while, like, go your way, I go my way, mind your business, I mind my business. But when there's not much to eat, we have seen crocs going for baby hippos. It has gotten quiet now. You'll always see the big male or the dominant male once in a while getting out of the water, opening his mouth and displaying, his huge ivory teeth, and maybe sending a message to the would-be bulls who would think they might come around this particular group to mate. Hippos are semi-aquatic. And of all the animals we got to be in Africa, the most loudest, of course, depending on the situation to me, are the hippos. Being semi-aquatic means you'll get them in water and on land. Now, for the better part of the day, they will remain in the water. And I can tell you, mostly in night, they were all out feeding, and sometimes they walk like 20, 30 kilometers away from the river to get the type of food or grass they want, because basically they are grazers, and about 4, 5, 6 in the morning, they start heading back to the river. Simply because hippos without water during the day, they're dead. That's the only way they are able to maintain the temperature. Andrew, good morning, or is it good afternoon or good evening where you are? And you'd like to know whether hippos go for the wildebeest when they cross the river? No, they do not. What we have noticed is they feel irritated because when the wildebeest choose to cross the river, sometimes they don't care who is in the water, hippos or crocs, and they just keep going. And if the hippos would have the youngsters close by, they might not be very happy or comfortable with that. But ideally, we haven't seen situations where hippos have had issues with wildebeest. The only one thing, Andrew, I can remember, this was last year, I saw wildebeest crossing the river, the same river, Mara River, not this crossing point. And a croc went for a baby wildebeest, and you don't want to believe, Andrew, what happened. We saw a huge bull went and chased away the crocodile, and it is saved that baby wildebeest. I mean, the calf survived, had a big bite, by the neck, but it survived and it crossed the river and had a happy reunion with the rest of the group. Remember, should you have any questions and comments, you are more than welcome to send them through #CGTNWorld or #WorldEarth. We'll stick around here, and maybe as it gets warm a little bit, they may choose to come out of the bank of the river, and we'll see what will happen.
So, we've got something quite interesting happening here. and you've probably seen them running around in the Mara with David or Isaac. We've hyena. But what's interesting about this hyena is that it is a female, and we confirmed this yesterday, and she is lactating. She's also sitting right on a termite mound, and you can see just to the left of her, that dark space, that is the entrance to a burrow. So I'm almost 100% certain that there is either a little hyena cub or two little hyena cubs inside that termite mound, which is really, really awesome. So this wasn't found by me. I can't take any of the credit, but when we had some rainy days, what was it, 2 days ago, one of the other instructors, Rensha, was driving around here, and she noticed this hyena as she was driving on past, and she said, come and check it out. And we did, and we've come here for 2 days now, and she hasn't, well, she's obviously been moving around because I can see her tracks, but she keeps coming back here. So this is really, really awesome that we potentially have new hyena cubs, because we've got a really cool den at Pridelands, funny enough. It's quite a big den. There's been 9 different cubs that have been seen there. But it does, every time we've gone there, well, since I've been back, it has given the sense that there are cubs outside the den. But there are lots of tracks of the little ones, so I think we just keep missing them. But also some of those cubs were getting older to the point where they weren't going to be living inside a mound like that. They were spending a lot more time outside and following the adults and sort of going on walkabouts and joining in on the search for food. But this is really cool. So that's kind of what you look for when you're looking for denning hyenas, is that there's a hyena sitting around, normally a big mound like this, especially in the low veld. They typically will use old warthog burrows or something that an aardvark has dug, and then they sit at the den very much like this. But she's a lovely hyena. I don't think that she's a very old hyena, because when we saw her standing up yesterday, she's got very neat ears. Just everything looks very clean on her. She didn't open her mouth, so I could see the state of her teeth, which is normally an indication, and you can tell sort of by age. And with hyenas, it's quite fascinating. The more broken up their teeth are, it can indicate one of two things. One, that it is an older hyena, and then two, that it is a lower ranking hyena, because they don't necessarily get the nice bits of food. When they feed, it might be left to just feeding on or having to crack open bones and that type of thing. So then their teeth obviously wear down a lot quicker. Well, I think she's quite young. But on her left side of her neck, just the pattern that I will use to remember her, is she's got 6 spots, sort of just as the neck ends and the shoulder starts, if you can imagine, in line with one another. So it's sort of 3 and then 3 spots, and they form a nice, almost like the pattern on a die, sorry. Not on a dice. And I'm confusing myself this morning, but I'm just really, really amped that we have got another hyena den. But I think we'll sit here for a little bit longer just to see if she shuffles around, and maybe we get a glimpse of these tiny little things that that resemble little black bears.
Good luck, Taylor. Hope you get to see those little cubs. Well, our male lion has turned around, and I'm almost certain now that this is in fact Mohawk. He's the grumpy of the 3. There we go. Look to this. Now, everybody, it's quiz time on this wonderful Sunday morning. So I have a quiz for all of you. Now, we're looking at a male lion, of course, and lion prides in general. And now there is a specific behavior, and there is a term given to it. Now I'm looking for the answer to this term, whereby male lions, not all the time, but from time to time, will kill cubs. They will kill them. They'll often eat them after killing them, but they'll kill them so as to bring the females into estrus. If, for example, there's a new territorial male or new males move into an area, and they want those females to become reproductive, there's a term given to the behavior whereby male lions kill cubs. So if you know the answer to that, please send through your answer to CG10 Wild or hashtag Wild Earth, and let our directors formulate those answers. It is a very interesting behavior. It's a very, very interesting concept, and it does sound quite sad and quite brutal, doesn't it? But the reality of it is that there's a set period of time that a male like this, I just heard another car starting there, that a male like this and a coalition like this are able to breed in a pride. Normally male lions come of age at 5-6 years, and they probably won't breed over 10, maybe, but probably not. So they've only got anywhere between 3 and 4 years with regard to being breeding fit, breeding ready. Now, a pride of lions that has got cubs will take 2 years in between cubs to breed again. 2 years. So if, for example, new males came to this area, displaced the evoker males, and found these nkuhumas with cubs that are less than a year, we're looking at another year, year and a half, maybe even 2 years before these females will be breeding ready. If you've got a pride tenure, or should I say, if you've got a breeding potential in prides of 3, 4, maybe 5 years, if you're a big coalition, then that's 2-3 years out of your breeding chances. So what has happened is that term I'm looking for, where male lions kill cubs, has become quite prevalent in the populations because the males who do it have more cubs than those who don't. It doesn't happen with all lions. Not all lions will kill cubs, but as with traits that are passed on in nature, those that are more successful are those that are more common in the environment or in the genetics are often perpetuated. So lions that kill cubs are able to breed, because if a female has a cub and her cub is killed, as sad as that might sound, everybody, as dramatic as that might sound, it is very harsh, that female is ready to breed in a month. 1 month versus 2 years. So it makes sense from a male lion point of view to practice that behavior, but it is very brutal and it does sound very crazy, but it is what happens, unfortunately. Very, very sad to witness, but it is part of nature, and that's why we always talk about the first year of a lion's life being the harshest. Jacqueline, you want to know what's the best sense in a lion? Well, I think their sense of smell, eyesight, and hearing is probably all pretty equal. They taste, or should I say, they eat things that are rancid, so I wouldn't know really what to put taste there. But definitely their sense of hearing and their sense of smell and eyesight is incredible. Although they see black and white, they are able to probably see in the darkest of evenings pretty clearly. And they seem to hear things that we haven't even discerned ourselves. And I've followed a young male lion track down his pride that was an entire day away from him, and about 4 or 5 kilometers, by smelling the ground. Now that is a scent I wish I could practice. I could just find animals by walking and sniffing, like a bloodhound. So it's very hard for me to tell you which of those 3 senses is more complex or more defined, but when it comes to living out in nature, living out here, and your survival is determined by your senses are extremely heightened. And predators use all 3 of those for hunting, and cubs obviously as well for defense and hiding away. And they're very tough animals, so they can take a beating. Doesn't mean they don't and can't feel, but it means that they are very, very tough and almost bulletproof when you see the injuries these animals are able to sort of recover from. But right now, Mohawk's not thinking about anything other than his next meal. And if they did eat an impala, which by the leg indicated they probably did, he got and always will get the lion's share. Have another vehicle joining us in the sighting. Mohawk's just giving them a little look and showing us how beautiful he really is.
Okay, so this is going to be one of my more depressing segments in 13 weeks. So just hold on to your seats, hold on to your pillows. If you've got little blankets that you use to comfort yourselves, or a cup of coffee, whatever it is. But what we're seeing here I'm going to make a prediction here, and please don't shout me down for this. It's not me being pessimistic, it's me being realistic. I'm going to make a prediction here that in 50 years, this species that we're looking at here will be extinct. Okay, and here's the reason I say this. Okay, springbuck numbers are dropping throughout their range. There are very few areas where springbuck numbers are actually increasing. We've dabbled in this topic before. We've touched on it very briefly. We were using American passenger pigeons as a bit of a comparison there, where when American passenger pigeons, where strict regulation came in to prevent their kind of further decline, there were still tens of thousands of those birds left. But what had happened was these critical densities, a critical mass of flock sizes had been reached, or they'd actually gone below a critical mass, and they just could not recover from that. And springbuck numbers, if you see the historical records of these species, it is just insanely big numbers that people were talking about. Herds taking 3, 4, 5, 6 days to pass a given point. There are people recording on ox wagons traveling for 150 kilometers through herds of springbuck. Those days are gone, and you speak to so many people on reserves, and their trends on the reserve are just declining numbers, and there's a whole lot of factors surrounding that, but so often it's got to do with a species just cannot perform below a certain critical mass unless very specific measures are taken. If you look at things like giraffe, there's another example. If you go to Africa, and kind of a giraffe is like an iconic African animal, you think, well, yeah, you accept when you go to Africa, you're going to see a giraffe. They've lost 20%, 30% of their they've had a 20-30% decline over the past 20 years. There's something going on there, and there's a couple of good reasons for that as well. But so often, a thing can disappear before your eyes without you even realizing it, because you accept, you come out, you always see springbuck. But what you're not seeing anymore are massive numbers of springbuck. You're seeing herds of 20, 30, 40. That's my prediction for the morning. Like I say, put me on the guillotine if you wish. Hey, DJ, now there is the $1 million question. DJ has just asked, so what can we do to stop these kind of things from happening? Okay, and there's no easy, because if I had that answer for you, well then, I could do a huge amount of good in conservation, and I would. Okay, so there's multiple factors at play there. It's been linked, one of the things has been linked to climate change. So, these are animals of very open areas. They don't like dense woodland. You've got higher CO2 levels in the atmosphere. It becomes more conducive to woody plant growth, denser vegetation. It makes the lambs more susceptible to predation. Key, one of the big factors here is the lack of apex predators in many reserves, where you've excluded your apex predators, and I'm talking about your bigger predators. I'm not talking about like these mid-range or meso predators, whatever you want to call them, but these apex predators that are controlling other predator numbers. So lions don't run around eating springbuck morning, noon, and night. Cheetah will eat springbuck morning, noon, and night. Now the problem is, you go out, you get all excited because you see 1 million cheetah running around, and everyone gets very happy and excited because cheetah also threatened species. In the meantime, all that's happening is those cheetah numbers are just climbing and climbing and climbing. What is killing cheetah? Other cheetah and lions. Lions will smash cheetah left, right, and centre if they get half a chance, because that's what lions do. They're big, they're nasty, they're strong, and they don't mind killing other things. So suddenly, in the absence of lions, cheetah numbers start picking up. Cheetah say, well, actually, those springbuck are the perfect size meal, so when I'm going to chase them, I'm going to eat them morning, noon, and night. We watched, Jandra and I watched with our own eyes, and many of you joined us on that female with 2 cubs, those cheetah. Within 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't know, I can't remember, we can go back in the footage. They had 3 attempts on kills there. They chased the steenbuck right past the front of the vehicle. Then they went and caught a scrubby 10 minutes later, gobbled it up, the mother. And then 10 minutes after that, she caught an adult springbuck. Cheetah are fantastically successful animals, given the right conditions, as is anything. Giraffe don't have a problem breeding. Giraffe know how to breed. Springbuck, know how to breed. We don't need to teach them or put them in some breeding program to breed them. Wild animals know how to breed. People know how to breed. You know, that's not the problem. The problem is the conditions surrounding their existence in these reserves. And anyway, there's no silver bullet, unfortunately, for any of these things. It's not a case of, okay, well, you have your apex predators and everyone lives happily ever after, or, okay, let's reverse the effects of climate change and everyone lives happily ever after. It becomes very, very, very complex, but we have to address these things if we need ecological systems to continue into perpetuity.
Hello, welcome back. And after the chasing of the male lions by the buffalo, I have come across the females. There are 3 of them. One is out of sight on the screen, on that frame. There is 2 females and 3 cubs. Looks like they've gotten themselves a nice snack of a young wildebeest, typical of those that get lost. And I think that's how they took the advantage and, you know, cornered it and killed it. I think it has been dead only about 20 minutes, and they're really, really working on it. You can see that. Same young male I saw about 4 days ago eating a wildebeest. He's really, really eating. The female to the right isn't very friendly to that little one for some reason. That's a beautiful, yeah. Well, there's a misunderstanding here. I don't know what's happening, because that is a very different kind of behavior from that female. I don't know. That's a very aggressive little guy. Yeah. I don't know why she's so pecky, you know, on that, you know, pecking on that little one. It's unusual, because normally they'll take care of one another's young. And those 2 females, you can tell, those 3 cubs could be theirs, because definitely they're 2 different ages. The 2, or the one to the right and one to the left, in front are the same months, about 5 months, and the one behind is almost 9 months, and then the 2 females. So definitely, you know, these are their mothers. You can tell they're not eating as much, so they are allowing the cubs to eat. Yeah, that little guy knows how to take care of himself. He doesn't need, you know, anybody else to take care of him, you know, him. Yeah, and yeah, you can tell here the females are letting the cubs eat. It is typical when, you know, there is plenty of food to eat. They will allow the young ones to eat. Very healthy looking females. This is the Owino Pride. We saw there are 2 males, and here I have 2 females and 3 cubs. There is a female that's not there, I'll say it again. And we are in their territory, which stretches from a place called Sanguriai or Shieni, and runs along the road all the way to Kilo 2 junction towards Ngangirare, and extends towards, you know, the escarpment, runs along the escarpment, you know, all, you know, back and forth from Sanguriai to Kilo 2. She's coming my way. Can tell she's very healthy. Look at those shoulders, very muscular. Yeah, hello. Yeah, she's gonna go past the vehicle. We're not able to show you that back there. Yeah, she's out of the frame. Well, those little guys know that they have to take full advantage of a meal like this. Sometimes, you know, it's days before they get another one, so they're really, really tucking in. And they have been very lucky, you know, to be getting lots of meals within this area. They haven't moved very far. And this time of the year, I think they know this is the area to be, because later on in the year, they normally move towards a swamp called Olpunyata. That's where they go, but right now they're quite the distance from the swamp. I think they're allowing everybody to think that they left the swamp so they can utilize it later on. This is the unique Sharon, thank you for your question. You ask about Scarface. Yes, he's still much around. He's alive and kicking, and he's been seen on the Greater Mara not long ago, about a week ago. So he's alive and kicking. He's very much around. Yeah, as I said, these territories are very important because they choose a territory depending what is available, and they can utilize their territory by moving around, utilizing availability of food at different times of the year. They know that the swamp is a good place to find food when the wildebeest have left and the zebras. So being out in the open like this is, much better right now because there is enough food. Yeah, that is definitely a male, a young male to the right there. You can tell he's got a little bit of mane coming up. Yeah, you can tell his ribs are showing. So I think he was not doing very well before the migration came. They're really working on that wildebeest. Yeah, they're not playing with food at all here. And I would say maybe in the last 3 days they haven't eaten. That's why they're really into it. Remember, this is live. It's coming from Maasai Mara. Talk to us. Hashtag CGTN Wild. Hashtag Wild Earth is a place you want to talk to us. Comment. Very, very welcome. You are in the Maasai Mara, and it's all beautiful here. Looks like the female is getting onto the head. You can't see it, but I did see him lift it. It's a young wildebeest. Yeah, so that I don't keep you and get you getting hungry because it's breakfast time, I'm gonna stick here and I'll see you shortly.
So we just had a gorgeous little bird here called a Morocco flycatcher, but that's not the point. He flew away. That's the point. But what we're doing, we're standing in this area. I'm actually standing up on the front of the vehicle. We're scanning. Have you got another one there? Let me see if that's so. So I'm just thinking, that's him. Yeah, that's him, I think. Yeah, that is him. I think so. Yeah, that's him. That's a Morocco flycatcher. There he is, sitting there. So that's I know some of you might say, well, what do you mean it's a gorgeous bird? Because it's quite like nondescript, but they are gorgeous little birds. Anyway, we are still looking for this mystery goshawk nest. I promise you we are going to find it, and I should never make promises like that. But I will keep that promise. I just don't know when I'll keep it, but I will. Don't worry. But what is also very interesting, actually, we've got this amazing species of gecko. So I'm jumping around a little bit. Bear with me. We've got this amazing species of gecko that lives out here called a barking gecko. And these little guys, they make a sound like they go... And it's normally before moist weather comes in. Or wet weather. Yesterday they were going absolutely bonkers out here. And this morning my car was covered in dew. So there's definitely moisture in there. So I'm hoping maybe we're going to get early rains this year, which will be very, very exciting. Come on, goshawks. Joshua has asked how many prides of lions are on Swallow. There are 2 prides of lions on Swallow, and then there's a whole stack of sub-adults running around. So I guess you can call the sub-adults, if they have their own little groupings. Technically, they while they're dispersing, there was a group of 4 that we had yesterday. Those sub-adults. Well, there was 3 sub-adults, 2 sub-adult males, 1 sub-adult female, and an adult lioness. So that would be its own pride as well. In reality. So you probably say, 3 prides, I guess. But yeah, coming back to the question of apex predators, it's so important for maintaining ecosystem health in any environment on the planet. I mean, it's so important.
Welcome back to And Beyond Phinda. Myself and Craig have been exploring some of the thickets in the mountains around the southern regions of Phinda. We've managed to find a large elephant bull. His ear flapping there, just peeking out from behind the bush. Just listening and watching. It seems like there's quite a few elephant bull thicket. No doubt a bachelor herd. A couple of bulls that have come together for company. And I think from here, myself and Craig, seeing as the view's not so great, we're going to carry on and head off in search of some black rhino.
Good luck finding some black rhino. I haven't seen a black rhino in years. Oh, actually, I saw one last year. In the Mara. It's wonderful. But we are here with our lion still. A very sleepy male lion who I think is feeling the sunshine like we are. He's just a little bit more lazy. But it's going to happen soon. The warmth is going to touch his body to a degree soon that he's going to get up and move. The rest of the pride has all moved off into the shade over there. We're going to reposition soon. We just wanted to stay with our male lion to finish off our discussion about the quiz. So let's hear the answers. Ruth and Craig said infanticide. That is a very, very cool word. Infanticide, the killing of cubs. Very well done. Your answers are correct. Infanticide. So the killing of cubs, something that happens in certain small animals or certain birds. You get something known as siblicide, where the sibling kills the other sibling. That happens, it's very common practice in eagles, whereby the competition for food leads one to outcompete the other one. And infanticide is obviously the killing of a youngster by an adult. And it also happens, lionesses will also do it. I don't know if we call it infanticide when a lioness does it, but the male lions do it specifically to bring females into estrus. And something that can happen when new males take over an area, there's obviously a lot of calling, a lot of scent marking, and if the new males move in, and that pride, who can obviously tell the call of a male and know it's not the previous dominant male, they will actually move away and try and avoid those males as long as they can. But they can only keep that up for so long. And there are reports even of females attacking males and preventing them from trying to kill their cubs. It does happen, but quite often males are in a coalition, very strong, very powerful, and they've also been known to kill females who have been too protective of their cubs. So it is a very, very crazy thing to witness. It's extremely violent, extremely loud and noisy, and it can happen very, very quickly. So a very, very sad sort of discussion, but something that commonly happens in lions.
Yes, it is not great to see something like that, but it's also something that you can kind of see with hyenas too. But anyways, I don't think we'll be seeing any of that today. So this hyena has just moved slightly, and you might hear some snorting in the distance. It's from the Impala. There's a herd of Impala just feeding through, and they're not happy that they can now smell and see the hyena. And hyenas, if in case you had any doubt in your mind that they are not capable predators, they do a lot of hunting, which is why those Impala are alarming like that. So we've been just watching her. She's been very relaxed. She's a little bit more nervous than the other hyenas that I've encountered here at Prideland, so we're making sure that we give her a lot of space. I mean, I don't know, Seb, how we are from the stand 40 50 meters away. So we're very lucky we can zoom in with the cameras. We never ever want to put unnecessary pressure on any of the animals out here. And you can see, look how she's nervous. She's looking around. It's because of the Impala, and maybe she's heard or smelled something else. They've got much better senses than we have. But she's just sat up a little bit higher, up on the mount. So she's not sitting right at the entrance now. She isn't actually far away from the main communal den, if it is still being used. It's maybe less than a kilometer away, probably 100 meters away, if she went direct through the bush. So this is most likely a natal den. So hyenas won't give typically in a den with a whole bunch of other hyenas and that has cubs in already. I've never seen a hyena giving birth before. I've seen pictures, but it's, from what I believe, it's quite a process, as you can imagine. So they do this quite secretively, and then they'll keep their cubs in a den away from the others. And then after a couple of weeks or so, then back towards a communal den.
Here I am still, and looks like this young wildebeest is much tastier. There has been a few fist fights at the dining table. Yeah, the young guys are not joking with food. I would say, I don't know if it's tastier or it's tender, but there's something about it. They're just into it, or maybe they're too hungry, or a combination of everything. Yeah, they're just, into it, like, you can't believe it. Look at that. Now that is the rib cage. That is all is left, and a front leg. I think the females that left, you can see from a distance, you'll see a head of a female there. I think they ate the hind legs, and they left the rest to the guys, and they're really, really working on it. They're really working on the kill. Yeah, this is what they're supposed to. Remember, they don't eat anything else, and whatever they find something to eat, they will eat it and utilize it as much as they can. Although this time of the year, they're a little bit fussy. I saw them eating a wildebeest, and they were not this crazy about it, like, the way they're eating it. They were a little bit relaxed. Gambi is at Gabi. Do lions? Sorry, I didn't get that. Gandhi. Yes, the question was about lions, but do lions do what? I didn't hear. Cross up tables? Is that the question? I don't know what you mean. I actually I didn't understand the question. Oh, they throw, hairballs. Gandhi, sorry, now I understand you. Do they throw up hairballs? Yes, they do. All cats do. You might have not seen a domestic cat do that because we tend to feed them too much of our food, and we have changed their diet completely. But these guys, they eat skins from any animal. They eat birds. Sometimes while eating, they'll eat grass, and they have a well-developed digestive system that knows that hairs cannot be digested, so they are rolled up into small balls and regurgitated once they get to a certain size. Of course, to induce the throwing up, you'll see them eating a lot of fresh green grass. I think that helps them in throwing it. Yes, they do throw them. Leopard, cheetah, hyena, lion, they all do it. Yeah, looks like the young guy thought the other side was better. He went around, and then there's no space. And actually, the female is not as friendly to that little guy for some reason. I don't know. Okay, looks like they're finishing their breakfast because it's still breakfast time here. So I'm gonna leave them and head towards another direction to see if I can find something else more appetizing.
Myself and Craig have stumbled upon quite an interesting scene here, everyone. Have a look at all these giraffes.
Than girls in lions. Look at those feet. It's a beautiful little lion, isn't it? Now, the two biggest cubs, it's becoming harder and harder to tell. Two biggest cubs are definitely boys, but they are quite easy to tell. And then the other 6 or 7, it's hard to really tell who they are at the moment. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, I can count 5 cubs, but they're all spread out amongst here, doing what lions do best. After a year and a half, 2 years, it becomes very difficult to tell the females apart because the young females have grown substantially and they're almost fully grown, although there's still a bit of bulking up to do. Males from a year and a bit become very, very easy to discern. They start growing fur around the neck, on top of the head. Obviously each is different in how it grows. That's why when cubs are over 3-4 months, lions, you shouldn't confuse them with that of leopard, because their feet are just so much bigger. You know, when we talk about dogs, when you find a dog, a puppy, and you see how big their feet are, you then know that's going to be a big dog, because they've got to grow into the feet, of course. But to talk about males and the killing of cubs, it's the reason why male lions will stay close to prides. Not only the reason, they're obviously looking for food as well, but their primary objective is to secure their lineage, to secure their babies going forward. And it's not uncommon for male lions to be killed in the conflict over their pride, especially if their cubs involved. Male lions will put their life on the line, because if they do get dominated and pushed away, they will become nomads. So essentially they are fighting for their livelihood and fighting for their lineage, fighting for their pride. It is all very romantic, and it is how lions have evolved. And that's why male lions don't live as long as females, because of the injuries that can be incurred during battle. They can either be killed outright in a fight, or the injuries that they receive can lead to them losing enormous amounts of condition, and either being killed by hyenas or losing condition to the point where they become emaciated and die. I know it's all very sad, but it is nature, it is how it works, and the strongest will always move forward. The strongest cubs will be protected by the strongest males, and those cubs will reach adulthood, and it's how the cycle continues. But right now, all we're seeing is a very relaxed bunch. But right now, all we're seeing is a very relaxed bunch of lions. These cubs, whether they know it or not, are protected. And whether they know it or not, there are many dangers looming for them. They stay within the confines of the pride with males following. Everything should be good. Normally, if new male lions move into an area, it's something that becomes very well known. The evokers arrived, and it was well known before they even interacted with this pride that they were around. But what happens under the cover of darkness, though, can often be quite dramatic. Because as you can see, when the light is shining, the sun is warm, the energy is sapped from these animals, and they conserve it to the best of their ability. The new fashion today is a lion tail scarf. Julia, indeed, they've gotten so big, haven't they? It's becoming harder and harder to tell who's who. But it's also a lot to be done with the food that they're eating. They are eating lots. The parents are providing lots of food. They themselves have to eat. And their movements, as large as they are, and their killing, as often as that is to support this growing pride. And it's the reason why when prides get to a certain size where they can actually split off because of the amount of mouths to feed. We've seen that so often in the Mara. God, so those breakaway prides, if food becomes scarce, certain times of year, animals that are available are not enough to sustain the pride, especially when your big male is following. The pride needs to move off in search of food that sustains them, and often forming smaller groups allows that to happen, because when they fight over an Impala, things can get very, very messy. Although, when they're sleeping like this, they do look rather peaceful and very serene.
Wonderful to stay with the lions, and I moved downstream, still along the Mara River, and got more hippos. But apart from the hippos, we also got some other friends. We got some primates for you. And these are the baboons. I hope you can hear the sound when they either keep fighting or playing. A bit of grooming going on there. And what happens is either she is looking for some parasites, between the fur of that one, and it could be anything from lice to fleas to ticks, any parasite what that should get. And it's so interesting. Look at those hippos, they're having a play fight. What a nice sighting we got here. What would happen is all the parasites she's removing from the body of the other, they eat them. So they would get some lice straight to the mouth, fleas, ticks, mites, anything. We have always noticed the females will always groom the males. They're very close to the water. You might think by a small mistake they'll just slip over and get in the water. And such a big troop. Now we got two types or species of baboons in Kenya. We got these ones here that we call the olive baboons. Would you like to know if the baboons ever cross the river? Oh, yes. Well, they may not cross the river like the wildebeest, looking, at very dangerous places. You'll be surprised they're very intelligent primates. They will look at the part of the river that have very, very low levels of water, and that's the area they use to cross the river. But they do cross very many times. And they'll always do that for the obvious reasons, mainly food, depending on what they are looking for. And we all know baboons are omnivores, just like human beings. Hello. Good morning. So good to see them in the background of the Mara River there. So saying earlier, this one here is the olive baboons, and Caster directly the show in the final control says she loves these. And they're funny. I mean, baboons, unlike lions, which sometimes, will just go flat and don't do anything. For me, for the years we've been in the bush, the baboons will be active from morning, like to the evening, until they got to sleep. They're always active throughout the day. Where are you going? You see how arched the tail is? Duffy, ideally hippos and the baboons relate well. We rarely see any alterations or any issues between baboons and the hippos. Ideally not. Hippos are basically grazers. They'll eat grass. As I said earlier, they're semi-aquatic, coming out during the night to eat. And by the time the hippos are out feeding, these baboons, most of them, if not all, are on top of trees sleeping, or where they spend the night, just making sure they're safe. So when they come out in the morning, to either look for anything they would feed on, or the hippos are back in the water. So very, very rarely we get issues where they would have any kind of conflict. So all family are out there. The see young ones, they're just running. The grooming here continues. The hippos, as usual, still calling and talking their language in the water. And normally we have the males being more vocal than the females, for the obvious territorial reasons. So just so peaceful to be where we are and watching this. Baboons, you could get troops of anything from 50 to 100 plus. The small, well, it's not a small group because they counted about 40 of them where we are. So all fleas finished, and the hippos there, I mean, they're having such a wonderful moment behind that baboon. So licking what was left after she took all the parasites. Maybe lice, maybe fleas. You can see her there trying to pick anything that could have been left on her paw. Good scratch, well done, good job. Now, one big difference between this baboon and the other Kathy asking whether baboons will eat anything dead by the river. I would say no, because baboons, being omnivores, baboons have been known to catch or to hunt food for themselves. Baboons will hunt scrub hares. Baboons will hunt, lambs of impalas. Baboons will hunt baby Thompson gazelles. Sometimes baboons have been known to hunt leopards, but I haven't seen baboons eating any carcasses. I would say baboons, being primates, do not eat anything dead by the river. I haven't seen them do that at any one point, not even scavenging. If they eat meat, you'll see them eating very fresh meat, which they hunt for themselves. Occasionally, you might see even baboons ganging up against an impala, and they'll bring it down. I was saying earlier, the big difference between this species or type of baboon and the other type that we call the yellow baboon is the size. These ones are always much bigger in size than the yellow baboon, and the mane that you see on the neck, especially for the males, is much bigger. Play continues in the water, and grooming continues on the edge or on the bank of the Mara River. Remember, questions and comments are very welcome. Keep us engaged, and you can tweet using hashtag CGTNWorld or hashtag WorldEarth. Now, we have to agree who is to get the grooming. But if you look carefully there, I would say that's the female, because in front of her, she got a pretty small baby there. And when you look below the tail, you can very easily tell males from females, because the females in general will always have it's very reddish below the tail, unlike the males around the genitalia, and that's how sometimes from a distance you can tell a male from a female. But in general, males are bigger in size than females. It's just like going to a salon and getting a comb and just going through the hair. But here, this is feeding time, breakfast time. The ever beautiful Mara River. The water levels have risen up, as I said earlier, which would mean we had some big rains where it starts. Dana, I'll tell you, baboons are very fast, but one of the defense mechanisms for the baboons is to very quickly going up a tree. Now, what they will look at, they will look who the predator is. If, for example, they find out the predator, for example, is a lion, they know they're guaranteed up a tree, they're home and dry. But we have seen many times baboons going for leopards and leopards going for baboons. Now, baboons know very well that climbing a tree, leopards are even better. They do not take any chances. But what they do is to just run and run very fast. If they're big in numbers, we got more baboons, definitely they gonna, there would be predator. Hello, you look very comfortable where you are. And you can definitely tell that he's a male, no doubt about it. You can see the genitalia. And sometimes they'll have, their male reproductive organ way outside for quite some time just to impress the females for mating rights. Getting some seeds there to feed on. Sometimes they'll get grass. Being omnivores, they're both, they'll be herbivores at the same time, carnivores, depending on what they get. But for me, they're more, I would say, vegetarians than carnivores. Grass, seeds, tubers, you see them digging in the ground. Why are you looking at us like, why are you looking at me like that? There's a big male just coming in on your screen from your left. Just look carefully. Look at him. And you can see his here, just his presence made this, I would say, a young male behave. He's a sub-adult male. Look at the big guy there, walking. He could be the guy in charge here. Also stops and feeds. They have very big canine teeth, the baboons. You don't want to take chances with these primates here. See the huge mane he got on his neck. This is truly wow. He is a big boy. I haven't seen other bigger males than him as yet, and my guess is he would be the dominant male here. Very territorial, and the males, when they charge, they are really in charge, and they do not allow the sub-adult boys or males to either even mate. Look at him. There's a female there. See the difference I was talking about earlier? Oh, okay. Finding out if she could be in estrus. I could be wrong. What do you think? What did you sniff? Okay, I'm the boss here. What do you do? Do what you're supposed to do. You see what I was saying earlier? It's the females in general that will always groom the males, and this is exactly what is happening now. Carefully please the males, be in good books with males, and especially if he is the dominant guy here. I don't know what they get, but as I said earlier, my guess is lice, fleas, mites, and ticks. Not sure what other small organisms or parasites they would get on the skins of these primates. And I would imagine, she'll be very lucky to feed. And this is what I would call a classical example of a symbiotic relationship, because everybody here benefits. And not sure what, tick-borne diseases that they would get if they have lots of ticks on their body or on their bodies. Now, see the difference on the mane between the male and the female. Apart from the obvious difference I was talking about, looking at their genitalia, but you can see the male has a bigger mane than the female. She's not lucky as yet. She keeps turning the fur. You can see how long it is. Oh, there, she might have gotten something. So the plan is create some room and put your teeth in there and just pull it out. They got very sharp nails also that they would use like a scalpel Anna Marie, very good to hear from you. And yes, this is something nice to watch in the morning. And I don't remember the last time we saw baboons on safari, especially here in the Maasai Mara. Always a joy to hear your name, Anna Marie. How cool is this? You can see the wind blowing the manes a little bit. It's so peaceful just to watch how wildlife relate to each other. Very good job. Boss, are you happy? Or are you going to invite another female to come and continue and proceed? Let's see what he decides. Bit of a scratch there, another male comes in. It's like 2 males, 2 females here. All in the same troop. Occasionally we get a human-wildlife conflict when the baboons, got to the villages, and you'd see them making, kids run away from them when they see them in big groups. Well, very exciting to see baboons, and I'm not going anywhere. They might be doing some different stuff.
They certainly will. Now, I've been taken for a wild goose chase of kudu, alarm calls, tracks, crazy stuff going on in this drainage, and I finally found my leopard. Orchid. You guys must have heard that joke 100 times, if not more. But there it is. I couldn't find the leopard. And it goes, it's in the drainage somewhere. That's the most frustrating part. It's this drainage that's between basically Gallagher Shortcut and Mvubu. It's quite a steep drainage. And it's somewhere. That's why I'm just waiting to hear another clue. But in the meantime, I found this wonderful leopard orchid. Now, it seems to have lost most of its flowers. They flower in winter. So as we approach the end of winter, as we are, you'll see that they look a little bit bare again. But there's a really nice flower. Obviously, it depends on where it's growing as well, and it's the stage of its growth. But there's a really nice flowering one on Rebecca's Road and at Chitwa at the moment. I haven't seen them recently. Maybe they've lost some flowers too. But this one looks fabulous. It's right up in the fork of a dead knobthorn at the moment. And thinking about the monkeys and things like that, vervet monkeys love the seeds and the roots of these leopard orchids. That's why you see them high up in the tree to suit their habits. Lots of monkey business today.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinder. Myself and Craig have headed through the mountains and down into the open plains. Another vehicle managed to find these 3 sub-adult male lions of the Biola Pride. And it's in shot now, just 2 of them perched up on a mound on that beautiful red earth, just taking in the golden rays of the morning light after a chilly night. And the 3rd brother is just off to the right in the long grass, quite well concealed. Just his ears protruding out of the long grass. You can see him just in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen there. His ears flicking in the wind. Ooh, and a big yawn coming from him now as well. And it seems like these 3 youngsters... Oh, there we go, he's getting up. And his tummy doesn't look too full, so it looks like these 3 youngsters have been left by the lionesses. The lionesses, no doubt, have gone off to try and catch something to eat, leaving the sub-adults to their own devices for a little while. And have a look at that male up on the mound there and how he's sitting looking so alert. We're currently sitting at one of the last remaining pools of water in this part of the reserve, and there is a very big herd of zebra just off to the right, out of shot. can just see the tail end of them, and they look like they're interested in coming up to this pan of water to come and drink. The wind is blowing those straight from the lions to the zebra, and they can no doubt smell them. Shidulu-fan, you're asking how many lions are in this pride, in the Bayala pride. Shidulu-fan, there's 3 lionesses, 2 small cubs, and then these 3 sub-adults that form the core of the pride. And then, of course, there's the 2 dominant males that move between this pride and the other pride that lives in the southern parts of Ambionpinda, the mountain pride. So 8 lions excluding the males. But yeah, so I think the wind blowing from the lion straight towards the zebra, no doubt making the zebra a little bit nervous about coming down to drink. They won't necessarily know that it's just 3 inexperienced young males. They can probably just smell lion, which of course is probably setting off alarm bells in their heads. And we've spoken frequently this time of the year when it's so dry and when there's only a few concentrated pools of water, how the predators like these lions will know that if they just wait around water for long enough, that the prey will come to them. So myself and Craig are going to sit tight here, see if maybe the lionesses are around, and see if these zebra do come down to drink.
Sorry about that, everybody. Back with us live here in Djuma, still with the Nkuhuma Pride, who one by one have started to join each other in the shade, and we've been able to count now 8 lionesses, which is the first time I've counted 8 in this pride in some time, which means that the one adult that is actually a sub-adult, who's become an adult recently. Ooh, here is the old girl, Purple Eye, with her injured foot. Oh, girl. She's got an injured, or a blind eye, and now an injured foot, and she's decided she needs to move into a very small amount of shade. That was a huge change, but there she goes. Such a beautiful lioness. She's had such a good influence on this pride. And even with an injury like that, she's still able to keep up with them, and I've no doubt still play her part. But 8 lionesses. One of the lionesses moved off with the young male who was chased away from this pride more than a year ago. And because she was away from the pride for a period of time, following her brother, obviously her appearance at the pride was foreign to the males. And so every time, I haven't seen it though, but every time she's tried to rejoin the pride, she's apparently caught a bit of a hiding from the evoker males. When we find her, I'll point her out to you. It's none of the ones that are right close to us here. There's another 2 that are hidden away in the grass, but when they come out and we can find them, we'll show you. She's got lots of injuries and cuts and scratches on her body, and that's from obviously being mauled and manhandled by adult male lions. Because there's a different smell when you're away from the pride. It's a different sort of smell, and a male lion sees you as a foreign individual and quite often will be quite aggressive towards her.
Sorry, we just lost the comms there a little bit there. But what I was saying is that you've got this fairly nondescript looking tree out in this big open plain over here. And at first glance, there it is. There's this tree. And okay, we can sort of pick it apart and say, well, there's probably some ants and odds and ends on it. But what I love about this particular tree here, and I've just noticed that as we came driving past, it seemed like there was a bit of a denser clump of branches in the middle over there. And on close inspection, David will actually walk closer here now, and you can actually have a look. There's the remains right inside here of a secretary bird's nest. It's an old nest that's been disused probably a number of seasons already. But if David's actually he's going to crawl in right underneath here, and you're actually going to get a very, very, very good view. And the point I wanted to make with this is just how remarkably well camouflaged a nest, even of this size, can be in this environment. And this is exactly the adaptation that they have for hiding their nests. And this is a huge bird of prey. But you can actually see the nest platform inside over there, just how extensive that is. And remember, this one is broken down already. There's some branches at the bottom over here from where it's collapsed, this whole pile over here. So that's what I say, this is an old nest. This is probably 3-4 seasons old at least. But this tree is very, very, very typical of what a secretary bird will use for nesting. And why they're so well camouflaged, or how they camouflage it so well rather than why, is they'll nest on these large trees, but they don't nest, the nest isn't sticking out on the top of the tree. It's actually settled in just below the crown. And I've personally witnessed secretary birds sitting on nests where I was standing on the back of a vehicle, a pickup or a bucky, you know, depends what you want to call it. And the only reason we saw that nest is by standing on the back, we were actually looking, as we drove past, into the top of the nest. If we'd been sitting down inside the vehicle, we would never, ever, ever have seen it. And that was only about 10 yards off the road. So for a bird that's this size, I mean, that bird stands at half my height when it's walking around. They're big birds. Incredibly well camouflaged nest. And it always amazes me. Bon Jovi has just asked, do species of birds, or various species of birds, reuse their nest? So some do and some don't. If you take, I'm just going to throw out a common example of things like weavers. And I'm not saying they're common birds, they are common birds, they're really cool. There's some fascinating things we can talk about as well. But they'll rebuild a nest every season. A lot of your raptors will keep reusing nests year after year. And in fact, a lot of your raptors have what we call alternate nest sites. I'm going to use another example. In South Africa, there's a gorgeous, spectacularly beautiful bird called the Cheetah falcon. Super rare, super uncommon. And they typically use alternate nests. They'll have a nesting site here, and they'll have a nesting site there, and they can use each one at different times of the year, or different seasons. So this year they'll use one nest, the following year they'll use another nest. But a lot of your raptors will keep using the same nest year after year after year. If you look at species like black eagles, you often get nesting platforms that are, that are 2 meters in height. Massive, massive structures. And I think one of the reasons is these birds are so long-lived, but their nests are a massive investment in time and energy. And black eagles, as an example, will carry a branch this size. They'll carry a large branch back to their nest. They'll carry it in their talons, sometimes in their beaks. So the energy and time that's been invested in building these nests is substantial. The other thing there is a lot of these large raptors that have got very specialized nesting sites, or need very specialized nesting sites, they want to, once they've got that site, they want to hang on to it with everything they've got. So rather than like having a nest and then abandoning it and maybe another pair comes in and takes over that ideal nesting site, why do that? You've invested the time, you've defended your territory, it's working, you've raised chicks, keep that site going as long as you can. If you're a weaver that is reliant on grasses to build your nest, well, those grasses are going to dry and they're going to frazzle and the nest is going to break up. But you don't worry, because the next season you can get as much grass as you want and you can rebuild another one quick and easy. If you've got a specialized nesting technique, like often your large raptors do, or requirements site-wise, you want to hang on to that nest as long as you can.
Welcome back, guys, and here look at what I have for you. I haven't seen one in a very long time. The rare Serval cat. Look at those huge ears. This is a cat not very many people have seen. Sometimes forget that it exists. sorry. I wanted to go quiet so that it doesn't sneak away from me, but it has sneaked away from me. I will try and move forward. If it decides not to be seen, I won't bother it. Because sometimes, if you allow it to behave the way it wants, next time it will give you a chance to see it. So let me move forward, turn around, see if we can see it. It's one in a million sighting. You rarely get to see these guys. We forget they're there because they're very shy and very secretive, and also their camouflage is equivalent to none. In the tall grass, you will just drive past them. I was driving really fast and he just appeared and then disappeared. I had to drive back, stop and look for him. He's right in there somewhere, but we can't see him. That was a serval cat. If you allow me. Yes, let me show you in my book here. If James can work his magic using his camera. This is what we're looking at. Yeah, it's called a serval cat. And it's widespread throughout Africa, but very, very rarely seen. I hope you had a good glimpse of him, because I can only show him to you in the book, right here. And this little guy goes for small mice, small birds, and he's got the capability of leaping up to 4 feet in the air and swatting birds in flight. Also, he can leap, up to around 4 feet, with pinpoint accuracy. Using his big ears, he can pinpoint where there's a mouse or a small bird, jump and grab it off the grass. So it's an amazing sighting, guys, and I cannot do anything else apart from leave him so that next time, we can find him. I'm gonna continue on. Yes, I'm gonna continue on, and hopefully I can find something more rare even than that. But that was an awesome sighting.
There is something here. There we go. 2 egg casings that I found on a tree. You can see that they're empty, and the wind is not being very helpful to me. I'm going to try to just get you so you can see the inside of it. Oh, nope, not obliging. But they're very, very firm. I'm actually not sure who this may belong to. But it is not an egg, as in a hard-shelled egg. Nope, the wind is not liking this segment at all. It's not a hard-shelled egg. It definitely belongs to an insect that was able to deposit it onto the top branch of a tree, and for it to stick. You can see on this side, at one point it was very moist and wet so that it could actually attach properly to the tree. Over here, I have a little spidey. So tiny. This is the tip of my forceps. It is the size of the tip of my forceps. And I found that inside, but this would not belong to a spider. A spider perhaps used it after the fact. So I'm not sure who it could belong to. It's very, very hard. It's also probably quite old. I wouldn't say that it's from this winter season. So insects can survive the harsh winter. A lot of insects will survive the winter by being in a pupal or larval stage, so that they actually can exist in their egg or their egg casing. A lot of you are thinking it may be a reptile egg. I thought so too. It looks a lot like a gecko egg, but that is where I found it is not the type of place where you would find a gecko egg. I found it deposited on top of a tree, and like I said, it was at one point very pliable and wet to be deposited and stuck on. I'm going to get you to have a look at this one while I try to break the other one. See if that... Oh, off you go. No, you stay there. Doesn't want to stay for you guys. There, you're going to have to be out in the open. Well, while we're thinking about who it could belong to, how about we do a little quiz? What is the proper name for an insect's egg casing? You can use the hashtag WildEarth or the hashtag CGTNWild. And let me know. Okay, guys. Not working out. I'm going to shelter it from the wind like that. So let me know, what is the proper name for an egg casing like this one? This definitely belongs to an insect, or belonged to an insect. What is its proper name? Hashtag CGTNWild, hashtag WildEarth.
Well, eggshells, should we see in here, we'll assume they would have been eaten by either crocodiles, or there could be eggshells of female crocodiles. And we're still in the same place we were, but we got a new visitor who came in to join the hippos. If you look carefully there, there's a little white bird there, and that bird is called a cattle egret. I'm not sure exactly why she is there, because they tend in general to move along with the herbivores, because when the herbivores, like either elephants or the wildebeest or buffaloes, name them zebras, when they move in the grass, when they weave with the legs, they keep disturbing the grass, and you get so many insects jumping up, and that's what they feed on. These three zebras have been going along the river, left, right, right, left, and thinking of wanting either to come and have a drink or even come across the river. You never know what they want to do. But they look, and they have to make a very difficult decision. If we have to cross, do we? Because they know the dangers or what could be lacking in that water. They know crocs are always there, and they could easily catch them for a late breakfast. What are you thinking? It was a big herd of about 15 of them. I don't know where the others could have gone, but these three, I think, are so determined either to come across the water. In the Maasai Mara and Serengeti ecosystem, water is very important to all the animals that we have in this area. Now, the Mara River apparently comes very close from my village. That's the source of this river, which is quite long, and we learn more about the sources of the water in this ecosystem.
Water is a fundamental resource for all creatures. In the wild, water sources are the sites for an array of activities. In the southern parts of Africa, the dense thickets and lush greenery dwindle and crisp up with the winter season. Making watering holes a gathering spot for grazers and a potential hunting spot for predators. but the giants of the lowveld never disappoint when visiting their local watering hole. Elephant trunks are generally amusing appendages, but are particularly entertaining when used to quench their thirst or cool themselves down. In East Africa, the Mara River is infamous for the treacherous task it presents to the migration herds. However, it is also home to a variety of winged, scaled, and wadding animals. It serves a necessary purpose, but also allows for moments of sheer joy and fun.
Once in a while, we have seen this river drying up completely. And when that would happen, it would mean we are going to lose quite a number of animal species, and not many that will die, because the hippos that you're seeing on your screen there, unfortunately, a big number of them, like about 50-60%, normally die. The crocodiles will not, because the crocodiles will always dig in and make themselves some nests of some sort, and they'll hold on there until the weather conditions improve. And once the rains come and the rivers are flowing again, you'll get them coming out of their cocoons or nest. But hippos without water are dead. Other animals, like the elephants as you saw, very intelligent animals, when things are so bad, many rivers have dried up, streams gone, the well is gone, springs do not have as much water, we have seen elephants going digging water and benefiting all the other animal species. This is the other group of the three zebras we were seeing earlier, and I'm sure they haven't made that difficult decision of crossing the very famous Maasai Mara River. Long River is about 400 kilometers long, going all the way to Serengeti in Tanzania and draining in Lake Victoria. Who knows, these zebras might change their mind. We'll give them a couple of minutes and see what happens.
I think going to a watering hole is a good idea. I'm going to go to Gallego Pan now, and then perhaps check out Treehouse Dam. The leopard in this drainage has certainly absolutely mystified me, eluded me, but that's okay, because we had a quiz and we have some quiz answers. Kenny and Joy, you say it's called a pod. That is not a bad thought. A pod, but it is not called a pod. There's a go-away bird shouting, as you would have heard. Puma and Miss Mesia, you say chrysalis. A chrysalis is a type of casing, but it is not over eggs. A chrysalis is one of the stages of a butterfly. So a butterfly after its pupal stage will create a chrysalis, but it is not an egg casing. An egg casing. Woohoo! Woohoo! Linda and Butterfly, you've got it correct. You say it is an utica. I'm just sitting here at Gallego Pan while I talk to you. It is an utica, and utica is Greek for, u means egg, and tika means cover, so egg cover. And I think even an ovary is called an utica, O-O-T-E-K-E, if I'm correct. So it comes from Greek, and it basically means an egg casing, and like the one that we saw, that I have now disposed of, it had a little segmented, dried up bit in it. So I'm not sure which insect it could be, but insects have convergently, that means that they're not related, but they have used the same type of material to overcome a similar problem. So obviously it was effective enough for many species to use it. So you'll find them in cockroaches, you'll find them in praying mantises, even stick insects. They all use uticas. And yeah, it's made up of structural proteins and tannins as well. And the tannin will help to actually solidify those proteins so you get a nice strong casing. And that helps all those developing eggs inside of it. They'll deposit all their eggs inside of it. Well done, guys. Utica it is. So here we are at Gallego Pan with not much happening. Not much happening at all. But that's okay. We're going to keep on going and check out another waterhole.
Welcome back. We are still on Zoom, everybody. And we are still with our puddle of lions, and the shade is getting small here. Can you see this female? She's the one, I think, Beaks. Is she the one who's been... Yeah, she's the one who's got quite a few scratches and scars on her body. She's the one lioness, I do believe, who's got the name nick-eared lioness. I think there in her left ear, she's got a little nick to her. She's one of the youngsters who... We've counted 8, as I said before, and this is the one, she's licking herself. That is where lions often attack each other, is on the rump, on the hindquarters, around the tail. And she's got a couple injuries there, and lots of scratches down the back of her body, where you can imagine where she's been pulled down and bitten a few times, scratched a few times. It doesn't look serious, but she's definitely been disciplined. And you'll often find animals, when they're injured and have a wound, they will lick it. And the saliva has got all sorts of antibacterial and healing properties to it. Obviously, if a lion licked your wound, you would probably go septic and you'd be very, very ill. So don't go and think you need now a lion to lick your wound. First of all, that is probably the hardest thing in the world to allow to happen. But animals have natural antibodies in their saliva most of the time, even we do. It helps to heal. It's the first thing you do when you prick your finger, you put it in your mouth, don't you? Helps to heal. So, for ourselves, that is. So hopefully she gets up and we get to see a little bit more of her injuries. And a lot of you are commenting on Purple Eye's injury. Yes, I mean, it's very hard to say how she's coping with it. She still limps, you know, she's not really putting a pressure on it, but she's still fine. She's still keeping up with the pride. She's managed to limp on for hours to catch up with them or keep up with them. And if she's still here, that's a very good sign. You know, it's not a front paw. I think a front foot would be a little bit harder to manage for her than a back. But we saw the Evoker male dark mane recover from what seemed to be a very badly broken foot. And a Purple Eye is able to hop along without putting any pressure on that back foot. It's very hard, these animals, to walk without using the front foot, but the back foot seems to be a little bit easier. But in saying that, when she does start moving a bit more and she stretches it out, it seems to improve. Trimoy, you want to know if lionesses have a choice to leave or join. There's no real joining of a pride. These lionesses are so closely bonded that any foreign lioness comes nearby and she will get badly attacked, violently accosted. And it's a very crazy thing to witness, actually. There's no tolerance for other females. But prides can, for the most part, when they get big, I haven't noticed it here in Djuma, although this pride is related to the Talamati pride. So there was a split at some point. So what happens, as we discussed before, the pride gets to a certain size. Certain lionesses with their cubs are competing quite heavily with other lionesses with their cubs, and eventually you might see them just split apart, basically like a family feud one day, and then the two prides will form, splitting off from each other. And then because they are isolated from each other for a certain period of time, they tend to start becoming a little bit more aggressive. So yes, they will. That happens, but that's a choice that they make when competition for food becomes fierce. And it is something we could see in this pride as the cubs get a bit older. We could see that the competition between the adults and the youngsters starts getting really aggressive, and then individual lionesses might end up moving off with their own cubs. But that is to be seen. Also, maybe the young lionesses who have nothing to do with the cubs per se might decide, I'm going to go get food for myself. As we saw just before I went on my last leave, the three young lionesses moved off and killed that buffalo on their own. Whether they did that by choice or whether they were forced to do that because of the pressure of the pride is very hard to say. There we go, another youngster moving into the dwindling shade.
Well, the lions with Steve, if they were here, they would be staying in the other side or on the other side of the river, laying ambush to these zebras that are either not decided actually whether to cross or not, because as I said earlier, they know the dangers, they know what they would expect in the water. Now the herd has grown bigger than the initial 3. Now you've got about 4, I would say 7 of them. And the other vehicle, some guests also enjoying the view just like us. But this one of the 7 zebras we have here is quite courageous. But it got very close to the water, and then she changed her mind. And I'm like, I'm not ready to die fast. We need to cross together. What are you thinking? Any time we see wildebeest and zebras together on a crossing, the times we have noticed the zebras taking the courage or taking the lead to cross before the wildebeest, and then the wildebeest will follow. Should they be 2 together, I mean, both species. But here we only got the zebras, and there's a young one there in the middle of the screen, and there's no way maybe she'll cross before the adults decide to do it. It's always a very tough decision because they know what they've gone through in years. Quite a number of times, a few of them will cross the river many times. So there's a friendly fight there. So you'll get a small little herd like this having a male, or what you call a stallion, with a mare and maybe 2 or 3 females, 2 or 3 wives, and a few youngsters. In every herd, that is the social grouping of the zebras. You look carefully, they tend to go to the shorter grass that's much green, definitely more nutritious than what other herbivores will graze, like the buffaloes or sometimes the wildebeest. But with the shortage of the short grass, you'll get the zebras also will eat the dry, non-nutritious grass, and the digestive system is always very efficient. Very unlikely to see zebras suffering from, say, drought. Situations when it's very dry here and there's not much to eat, zebras will always be able to cope and manage. And we always tell that, but you see that the one scratching itself there, we always tell that by looking on the shape of their mane. You see on top of the necks, they have that mane there. It's being blown by the wind. Standing upright like that, it shows these zebras are in good condition. Should you see it like fall on either side, then that tells you there's something either wrong, either old age or sickness or suffering from drought. Jason, zebras are in the same family with horses, and we call them equidae. So they're in the same family of horses. Definitely they're not horses, but they're in the same family with horses. These particular zebras here, Jason, we call them the Bachel's zebras. We've got a few other types of zebras. In Kenya, we got two species. We got these ones here, and further north of the equator, we have another species that we call the gravy zebra. Apparently, Jason, the gravy zebra is much closer to a horse than this one, and the one you see on your screen there, the Bachel's or the plain zebra, is much closer to a donkey. Now for the south, like say in Kalahari, you'll see different zebras there, like the mountain zebras. So in Kenya, two species, but all of them, even the mountain zebras, are in the same family with the horses that we call the equidae. If you look at the one in the middle there, it looks a little brownish in color, and that tells you it's young. Vic, good question. How many migration can a zebra make in its lifetime? Rather tough question, Vic, to know. Rather tough question. I mean, it's difficult. I wouldn't think we have had researchers or people who have kept an eye on the migration all around the year, not even for the wildebeest. Vic, the only thing I'll tell you, we have an idea of how many kilometers they cover, but who knows, unless maybe you'd mark a particular one or have some kind of chip or collar on a zebra, then you'd have an idea how many migrations it makes in its lifetime. It could be one, it could be many. A rather difficult question, but a very nice question for me to ponder about. They seem to be moving further away from the river. All right, I'm staying here because they might come back.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinder. Myself and Craig have just come across this giraffe. And if you look very closely between her back legs, or between her front and back legs, you might be able to make out the body of a very small baby giraffe. For the time being, standing behind its mother. We can't see it just yet, but it is absolutely tiny. I don't think I've ever seen such a small giraffe. It looks like it's only at most a couple of weeks old. It's really, really small. And look at how vigilant its mother is being. With a little calf that size, so small, so young, it will be very vulnerable to all kinds of predators. So Mama's going to have to be super vigilant. Keep them away from dense thickets where she's not able to see. I'm really hoping that this little giraffe steps out into the open so we can see it. It is super, super cute. We didn't get a great look at it when we first spotted it. It was kind of loping across the grassland after its mother. And it almost even looked a little bit wobbly on its legs, so it might not even be a week old. It's so small. But like I say, the more we get to see it, the more we'll be able to kind of gauge how old it is. It'll be interesting to see if we can still see its umbilical cord hanging from its belly. But it's all dependent on either it or its mother taking a few steps, keeping us all in suspense. Oh, it's moving. But not sufficiently. Sam, you're asking if the mother can protect the baby if it were to get attacked. Sam, absolutely. So, I don't know if you've ever seen a giraffe's hoof, but it's massive. It's about, well, it's very big, close to the size of a large shoe, I suppose, a large person's shoe. And that's, of course, on the end of those very long legs. And look at the size of the muscles on the shoulders and on the rump of that giraffe. So she'll be able to deliver a very powerful kick with those legs, and of course those big hooves will be a formidable kind of weapon as well. So she'll use her hooves and her long legs to kick out at any potential predators. So if she were to be surrounded by, for example, hyenas, or if a very brazen leopard were to try its luck, a big male leopard perhaps, maybe even one lion or one or two lions or young lions she might try to defend her calf against. But yeah, unfortunately, if it were a big pride of lions, Sam, she would probably try to save herself. As heartbreaking as that is to say, of course, for them it makes sense. If her calf dies, it's obviously very sad, but if she dies, then that's an animal that's already able to breed and produce offspring that's going to be lost to the population. She can, of course, always produce another offspring, but if her youngster dies, I mean, if she dies, her youngster's going to die anyway, more than likely. So, yeah, very sad, but the harsh reality out here. Look at that little tail of the giraffe wiggling in the background underneath its mum's tail. I don't know if you can see it there. Look at how low to the ground it is. Literally, the bottom of mum's tail is the top of her little baby's tail. Oh, here it comes. Oh, please, come a little bit forward. There we go. Patience pays off. Look at that. It's so cute. I can just hear resounding applause in final control. How cute is that? It barely comes up to its mother's chest. Now, compared to its mother, it looks absolutely minuscule, but if I were to go and stand there next to it, I think this giraffe would probably be about the same height as me. And that's normally about how tall a giraffe is when it's born, normally about 6 feet or 180 centimeters tall. Look at how short the little hairs are on its tail. Look at how cute that is. It's still looking a little bit wobbly on its legs, so yeah, I think very new to the world. Oh, it's lying down. It just flopped down there behind that guarri bush. No doubt feeling safe, knowing that mum is nearby. And of course, with her super long neck, she'll be able to spot any potential danger that might be heading this way. She's bending down. Let's see what she does here. She might go to maybe smell the top of the calf's head. I think we might try and go a little bit further forward, everyone, and try for a slightly better view. See if we can get one more view of this little giraffe calf.
So we've got a different kind of animal that I haven't seen for a long time. We've got some vervet monkeys, which are a known pest around camps, but luckily for us, they actually don't bother us at the eco-training camp because we don't leave any food or anything around for them to get. But look at it, it's a whole family. There's even a little one that's got its head down, taking a drink of water. This is very nice. I'm sure there's more monkeys, probably just sitting up in the trees. They normally live in quite big troops. Can see them just there, but there's a whole bunch of animals coming down. Also, there's a warthog that seems to be bossing the Impala off to the left. Hello, big piggy. I love the warthogs, especially the ones that do come and drink at this dam, because they are very relaxed and they don't run away, which is nice, because it's very difficult to get a sighting of a warthog in the bush. You know, you've probably got more chance of seeing a lion and having a decent sighting, but a warthog, it's normally the bottom and the tail up and running in the opposite direction. So it's quite nice to have a relaxed sighting. But everyone's a bit nervous and a bit on the jumpy side. The wind is picked up significantly, Apologies for my audio breakup. This is the story of my life. But look at everything. There's a monkey now, Seb, in between. Look, that big one. Can you see just there, just to the right of the Impala? What are you doing? Why are you chasing after all the animals? I wonder if that's a male. Yes, it looks like it. I wonder where he's going to drink. You're going to give everybody a fright if you're not careful. Like I said, they're on high alert. The wind has picked up quite a bit. So everyone's a bit jumpy, not wanting to stick and drink down at the water's edge for too long. Also, the rams are chasing one another around quite a bit, constantly showing each other who's boss. There's a big Impala males with the horns. That Impala ram is kind of just like, what are you doing here, monkey? Go and drink with the rest of your family. And it's funny that they're giving each other a wide berth. But having so many eyes and ears around here is good, especially with the wind blowing, as I'm sure you can hear it, because vervet monkeys have got exceptional eyesight. Impala eyesight is also not too shabby. The warthogs is probably the animal that is benefiting the most from the Impala and the vervet monkeys, because they don't seem to pay attention most of the time. They've just got a very good sense of smell. But this is awesome to see them all interacting like this. And as the season starts to move into spring, hopefully we will get some rain. But if we don't get a significant amount of rain, we're going to see even more animals. And it is really special in South Africa to see monkeys, impala, warthogs. You know, we might even have some giraffe come down, or a herd of elephants, and all interacting with one another. We don't typically see a lot of that. You know, you see these interactions with multiple species, especially in Namibia, or perhaps even where Dylan is in the Kalahari. You probably see it more because it's so arid there. So it's really, really awesome to spend time with not just one animal, but a whole bunch of them. It's also entertaining to watch the monkeys, although for the first time ever, they're actually behaving and not getting up to no good. Yeah, there's lots of them coming on now. They're all coming out of the trees. You see them just crossing the muddy section. They won't want to spend too much time in the mud. They don't wallow. They're very fortunate that because they are so social, they groom one another and pick the fleas and ticks out of each other's coats and out of their own coats. Much like the Impala will also allo groom and groom one another. It's really just the thick-skinned animals like buffalo, rhino, warthogs, and then of course elephants that enjoy wallowing around, that will suffocate the ticks and also coat them with a nice sunscreen, if you will. Here's an Impala female. The rest of the herd, you'll see they're just hiding off out of the wind. I think they already came down to have a drink. But I reckon if we sit here a bit longer, the animals might get a bit bigger, because I could hear some branches breaking in the distance.
This little giraffe calf stood up and kind of wobbled over to that little dead tree there, and might just be able to see his little face sticking out from the right hand side of that dead tree. See Mom also standing there, very still. Amazing how such a big animal can blend in relatively well with its surroundings when it just stands still like that. A little giraffe looking at us. Just too adorable. Gail, you're asking if there's a large giraffe population here at Ambient Pinda. Gail, yes there is. We're very lucky in that we do have very good numbers of giraffe. Exact figures I couldn't tell you offhand, but definitely a couple of hundred spread out across the reserve, mainly in the southern parts of the reserve. There is kind of I wouldn't say a migration, but a movement across the reserve, just depending on where the best food is. Of course, with giraffes not really being territorial, they don't defend territories against each other, so they kind of just move wherever the best food resources are. And this particular part of the reserve, often at this time of the year, we do see good numbers of giraffe, and it can be a fantastic place to view giraffe. I mean, look at how open it is all around where we are. And you can get spectacular views of them walking in the open, or up on top of ridges with sunrises or sunsets, or just blue sky behind them as they walk. And yeah, I think this is probably, if not the newest, one of the newest additions to the population here. Like we said, amazing how standing next to its mother, it looks so tiny, but if I were to go and stand there next to that giraffe, it would probably be taller than me. And from here, it's gonna grow very quickly. Amazingly fast growers are little giraffes, and they reckon that within the first year of its life, it will double in size. So this time next year, this little giraffe could be 3.5 meters tall, which is, I think, between 10 and 11 feet. Or closer to 12 feet, probably. Incredibly fast growers. And again, look at how vigilant its mother's being. Of course, now, with it getting a little bit later in the morning and the sun being pretty intense, it's unlikely that the larger predators are going to be active and moving around. The lions that were not far from here earlier would probably be, or not the sub-adults we saw, but definitely the lionesses that were undoubtedly off hunting would potentially be a threat to this little one. But now with the heat of the day coming in, they'll probably be lying in a thicket somewhere. And like we said, maybe a reason why this mother has brought her youngster out into the open away from any dense bush. Now, while we've been sitting here, we've managed to spot a black rhino very far off in the distance, and we're going to go and try and get a better view of it, and hopefully when you come back to us, we'll have, like I said, a better view of that black rhino.
Welcome once again, and we are already at the river, the beautiful Mara River, and the residents of the river are having a lazy morning. They are sleeping in. They're joined by the other colleagues, the crocodiles. You can see them, nice and fat, been eating well this migration time. And of course, we have an elephant who's a frequent visitor to this area. You can tell he's grazing on those nicely fresh shoots that have been in water. The water is down, so right now they must be like eating spaghetti. This is the Mara River, remember, and this is a crossing. I have been visiting. I have shared a few crossings with you guys here. But today, the migrating herds are nowhere. But who says anything might happen? I will be moving from one crossing to another in the next 3.5 hours. So hopefully, we can catch, a crossing. Chuck, thank you for your question. You asked me what time is it mating season for hippos. They mate year-round. They don't have a specific season like other antelopes like wildebeest or zebra or giraffe. They don't have a specific season. Depends on when a female come into season, they will mate then. Chuck. Yeah, remember this is live from the Maasai Mara. Talk to us on CGTN Wild, hashtag Wild Earth. This is live from the Maasai Mara. Those are the Nile crocodiles. Normally they are not this big, like I say, in their bellies. So they've been gorging themselves. Remember, these guys eat well once a year, and after eating they'll slow down their metabolism, only eating the next migration. Of course, if something comes by, they'll feed on it to keep them going. I'm hoping that elephant will go across. I don't know when. Just like I've taught you and told you, nature, it happens when it happens with nature. You can tell that he's enjoying that patch of the river. Cooking fat, is that your real name actually? I doubt it. You asked me how thick or how fat is a hippo skin. When it's alive, it's almost 2.5 centimeters. And when it's dry, it's almost a centimeter thick. It's really, really hard. And after drying it properly, after it dries up, properly, it is impossible to pierce through using, a knife. Yeah, so it's quite thick. It's almost a centimeter thick. Hope I answered your question. Yeah, this is a beautiful scene. Not always seen like this, hippos, crocodiles, and elephants. And that bird, I've been ignoring him, but he's a yellow billstalk. He's also a resident of the banks. He normally feeds on fish and frogs. Yeah, is he gonna go across the elephant? Is he gonna give us a show? I don't know. Looks like a young bull because it is rare to come across, females by themselves. Like this, it will be very rare. See, yes, I think it's a bull. I've looked on its forehead. It's much more rounded. Yeah, it is a bull. So definitely, he's over 15 years. That's an age where they seek freedom. They're always by themselves. He's doing a dump. Yeah, they're very good at that. Their digestive system is very poor, so it takes about 4 days for food to go through the gut, and in a day they can go to the bathroom, several times. He's also having a wee. Yeah, that is allowed because he's very close to water. I can always drink, more. Yeah, the hippos. Yeah, the hippos are enjoying the beach. Like I said, it is that time of the year where they just, for some reason, want to be out of water. This is my area for the next maybe hour, so don't go anywhere.
Thank you and welcome back live to South Africa, where we are still with our pride. The Nkuhumas and the cubs are losing shade quite quickly, and many of the adults have already moved off into the shade, so we'll see if these move shortly. Don't forget, everybody, we are live and interactive, and any questions and comments you have, please throw them in on the hashtag CGTNWild, or alternatively on hashtag WildEarth. We'd love to connect with you, answer any questions that you might have. We're going to spend the remainder of the drive with these lions, and maybe they will do something for us other than sleep. In sitting the way they are, you notice where this one's looking at us, there's a very heavily trodden path. Oh, there we go. That one's doing the Sphinx pose. The cat stretch, those of you yogis out there. Okay, this is what's going to happen. One by one, they're going to file into the shade. And it's a very common practice for lions to lie up in the shade on these sort of well-trodden sort of game paths. And where the others are sitting there, you'll see they're looking at it going, oh, that one moved. The energy to get up and move over there into the shade, is it worth it? You can see that game path running off towards the top right of the screen. A very, very busy game path that will take animals all the way down to Cheetah. We are on Djuma Private Game Reserve, everybody. Oh, Puma wants to know where on Djuma are we? We are sort of in our southeastern section with the Nkuhuma Pride off of a road called Mamba. So this game path, if you carry on it, it will take you straight across the drainage line and will take you straight down to Cheetah. So down in our southeastern section. So this game path is one that hippos will utilize, as well as elephants and all sorts of animals on their way to and from water. And it's probably where the Nkuhumas were moving when they stalked and killed what we believe to be an impala. All that was left was a very small piece of a leg that we haven't seen since. You can see that cub on the right is starting to feel the pressure of the heat. It's thinking to itself, my sibling has moved, I wonder. The sun is very bright in my eyes as well. So the lions are all the way over in the western side of the Sabi Sands last night. They made it all the way back across to the east and then came back up here into the north. So they can travel quite far. And they can cover quite a big distance. They can move across quite a few boundaries. A number of private reserves joining up here in the northwest and eastern parts of the Sabi Sands, with major boundary roads as sort of the cut lines. The animals don't see these as boundaries, they just cross over. So it's often why you might see us checking roads, especially checking our boundary roads to see who's come in. One of the fellow guides at Djuma was actually out this morning and found tracks coming in from Cheetah. And so we came to give him a hand. And thus we found the lions. Tasha, yes, indeed. I believe the cubs are well past the mange. The fur on the body all over the place seems to be growing and is looking very, very shaggy. And in the places where the mange was prevalent, where they've scratched themselves and the fur is missing, even those patches are starting to regrow. So that cub that moved off before, there was only a small patch on it that we could tell. It had a bit of mange. The rest of them, sitting and looking at them today, I haven't noticed any dark patches, and the dark patch is really just where the itch has been so tremendous that they've scratched the fur off. But last time I saw them, if you looked at those bald patches, there was fur sort of growing in and around the edges. Seems as if they're over the worst. Mange, sycoptic mange, everybody, those of you who don't know what it is. You often see it on animals that seem to have lost a lot of fur. It's a mite that burrows into the skin, and it actually breeds on the animal's body. It's a parasite, and it causes the animals extreme amounts of itching, and so much so that they actually scratch themselves bald. And that's what makes it look so bad. It's not a life-threatening ailment. And because lions are so tactile, so touchy-feely, and they lick each other and rub each other all the time, that mite is transferred very quickly through lions, very, very quickly. But like I said, they seem to be over the worst. You might hear the sound of a vehicle. Everybody else is also keen to come and see our lions today. And we're going to spend as much time with them as we can.
Here we have some zebra and some impala and quite thick bits of the bush, and of course a warthog. Warthogs were running amok here, chasing each other. An impala got chased in the process, but the zebra were cool, calm, and collected. Everyone's just enjoying their breakfast, and this warthog comes running. Well, I mean, warthog's version of running. They were chasing each other, and then one wasn't even running very fast. So let's see if they do it again. I'd love for you to be able to see it. Out in the bush, you can be highly entertained, and not just by the magnificence of nature, but by how funny it can be too. You can hear the wind, the rustling of the leaves. paths, you'll find that herd animals are sticking together. I'm surprised I don't see any Wildebeest in this group either. A herbivore conglomerate. Well, I hope the warthogs come round again. If they do, I'd love to show them to you. But for now, I'm just going to sit with these guys.
Welcome back, everyone. We've managed to catch up to this black rhino. It's not the greatest view for now, but there, can you see its back sticking out of the thickets there? Looks like it's been rolling in some very red earth. Look at its ears. You can just make out the ears on the left-hand side of that lighter patch. Busy listening towards us. And we're quite close to this rhino, everybody, and it's looking around itself. And often with black rhinos, because of their habit of living in dense bush, they can be quite nervous, and also because they often live alone, they can be quite kind of jittery and excitable, I suppose. So we're being very quiet. There it moves. Look how it's got its tail up in the air and its head down to the ground. And that tail curled up like that, just like with a white rhino, it indicates excitement or agitation. So it might be on the scent of another rhino. I couldn't see if it was a male or a female, but it might be that it's a bull on the scent of maybe a rival bull that's entered its territory. And have a look around it. You might be able to see, well, I mean, look at the color of the sticks all around this rhino, how dark they are. There's been a bit of a fire that's come through this area. And oftentimes, after a fire, because of the burning of the sticks, causes caramelization in the tips of the branches, and makes the little twigs and sticks of bushes very, very nutritious. And oftentimes after a fire, black rhinos will move into burnt areas specifically to feed on that new growth and on those kind of burnt tips of the bushes. But there it goes, disappearing off into the bush. How fantastic was that? That was our plan. We said we were going to try and find a black rhino, and in amongst all the other awesome things, we finally got to see one. Again, a brief view, but sometimes that's how it goes with these black rhinos because of how elusive they can be. But it's gone to where there's another road. So I think myself and Craig are going to try and loop around, being very careful to try and stay downwind of it, and we'll try for one more view of it. That was super exciting. Yeah, like I said, and also the area opens out a little bit more there, so maybe we'll be able to get an even better view. Let's go try.
I'm trying to do the same with my zebra and Impala and warthog. Ta-da! The zebra in the back. Oh, all three of them. Very nice. For a moment they were completely gone. They seemed like they vanished into the denseness of the bush. And sometimes we just get lucky. It's so nice to see them associating like this. Herbivores, but they're after just slightly different things. Zebra is after the grass, Impala is browsing and after grass, mixed feeding. And the warthogs down on their wrists, digging, pulling out nice roots, bulbs, other juicy bits they can find. How harmonious. Oh, this warthog wants the attention. Keeps walking into frame. I love it. It's actually nice to have a warthog sighting where they're not tails up and fleeing. can see they're really, really in the thick stuff. It's a great stick sighting, as well as a herbivore sighting. I'm going to, I think, go to about Philibon's Dip, which is just a little bit north of me, and then perhaps up Rebecca's, and have a look out for Shudulu, because last night she was hanging around in that area, and the last couple times we've seen her, it's been in that area. So I'm gonna go try my luck.
Welcome back, everyone. This rhino has come out into the open just like we hoped, and it's crossing the road. Look at that. It looks like a bull, just as we thought earlier, and still with his tail up in the air. It's obviously on the scent of something. How amazing is that? I can't believe it. We got so lucky this morning with this rhino. So fortunate that it was so close to this more open area. Oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. Walking through the open and then disappearing behind a bush there. Apologies for all those buildings there, everyone. We are very close to one of the research camps and also staff accommodations here. James, you're asking how large on average is a black rhino bull's territory. James, in this particular part of South Africa, it kind of varies between 50 hectares and 3,000 hectares. And that will, of course, depend on the availability of food and water, as well as the density of other rhinos in the area too. And this particular bull looked like he was quite a big bull. No doubt in his prime. So fantastic, how amazing was that? That's what we set out to find, and we got rewarded with a fantastic view of that black rhino. Where it's gone off into those grey thickets there, it's going to be pretty hard to keep up with it. So I think we're going to probably leave it at that, and we're going to keep on making our way out through these mountains and plains to see what else we can find for you this morning.
Well done, Damon, on your black rhino as well. How special is that? Well, we've got a comparison to show you of cubs born in June versus cubs born a few months later. We are still here live with our Guma Pride. Have a look at those two. There is the boy on the left and one of the other younger ones on the right. And by looking at its tail, it doesn't seem to be the smallest. So just a couple of months goes to show you how quickly they can change. They grow from strength to strength, and obviously there's probably a difference in male versus female at this age. You might hear other vehicles, everybody, as before. Here is the stalwart Amber Eyes. She's now decided the sun is getting a bit much. She's going to move to get a much shady spot. Fiona, you want to know if lion fur changes with seasons? And it does not. They don't. For the most part, we don't have a massive change in season here. It goes from being relatively cool in the winter months to being very hot, but it doesn't go below freezing. So there's no real need for a change in winter-summer coat. Although they do sort of shed their fur, it's nothing like any animal or dog that I've ever experienced. Okay, so they've decided there's the best spot over there. Let's go into the shade, and all the cubs are going to follow. They don't ever want to be left behind, you see. The cubs all seem to be a little bit more shaggy in their fur, but that sort of wears itself down as they grow into it. The lions, for the most part, are a pretty decent-sized mammal, so their body temperature is pretty well regulated with their size. If they do get cold, they'll just start moving and being active. If anything, it's the heat that is the biggest concern for them, or the element that they spend most of their time trying to avoid. And so you will find in the heat of the day, here's a little one, in the heat of the day, the lions will find the shadiest spots available, and this effort walking over to the shade is so much effort. You'll see the cubs as they get there are going to just plop down. Shade is a very important element to the survival of many animals out in these areas. Shade is a refuge from the sun. And if we did not have the shade, animals would have to evolve very different strategies of coping with the heat, like what we see in our desert-dwelling animals, most of which are mainly active at night when temperatures are much cooler, and they avoid the sunshine entirely. Oh, no, I don't want you to suckle. The milk machine moved, everybody, and the cubs want to have a drink. And can you imagine when you're hot and bothered, the cub wants to come with its sharp claws and teeth and to suckle? Must be very uncomfortable. Okay, well, we're going to leave you with this last scene of this cub marching along the game path to find itself a bit of shade.
So the next lot of Impala have made... The next lot, apologies everybody, the audio issues are still very persistent. The next lot of Impala have finally made their way down towards Ndlovu Dam. They've all spread out now, but at one point there must have been close to 50 of them, all lined up along the water's edge. There you can see the rams pushing and shoving, and there's also quite a big bird called a grey heron. Wait. Now, Alison, great question from you about the Impala, and some of you may have noticed as they were walking around that they've got sort of little fluffy black things right on the behind legs. I don't know if you can see that. All of them have got that. It's not just unique to a male or a female. Both sexes have it. Those are called metatarsal glands, and they're very important to the Impala. Scientists are still not 100% certain exactly what they've... I can't have a conversation like this. Sorry, everybody. This audio issue is rather frustrating, as you can imagine. So what I was going to tell you, Alison, is that essentially what the scientists and biologists believe is that it is a type of a scent gland. And essentially, if they are startled or chased by a predator and they all disperse, this releases a particular scent, and they're able to find one another afterwards. But I'm hoping, as obviously technology gets better and better, we'll be able to get more accurate answers as to what certain things are, what their function is on these animals, because I don't think we understand a lot of what goes on. There's still a lot to learn. But you get different types of glands from various animals. So like wildebeest, if you've seen any wildebeest recently, and I'm sure you have in the Mara, you would have noticed they've got those strange, it almost looks like a second pair of eyes just below their eyes. And then those are called preorbital glands, and then a wildebeest also has a gland in their hooves. So they'll use that for scent marking as well. But with the Impala, they've just got the metatarsal glands right on their back legs. They're all looking in fantastic condition, though. And these are, if not the most successful antelope in Africa. They're very important to the ecosystem for many, many reasons. Of course, they form the diet of a lot of the predators, especially the leopards in the Sabi Sand, where you're with Steve and Trish. And then, of course, Impala are able to just eat all the different types of vegetation. They're not restricted to just grass or just, leaves, just having to browse or graze. They can do either or, which is really, really helpful to them. Where are you going, boy? He doesn't look too impressed with life. Riley, you can indeed tell the age of an impala by the length of their horns. It gets a bit tricky, however, when, you know, that ram that we were just looking at, because he's a mature individual, so he's probably in excess of 4 or 5 years old. But typically after a couple of weeks, the impala's horns, if it is a male, they'll just start to protrude out of their heads. And normally by the first year or so, they've already got a slight curve to them, and then after that, then they start curving backwards, and then they'll grow. And like everything, genetics also has a big role to play, because some impalas get bigger horns than others, but typically you can kind of age from their first year to their second year, and then after that it can become a little bit tricky. You'll just need to compare them to the other rams, and also maybe look at something like their body size. So are they nice and filled out? Do they have lots of muscle? Because that takes a fair amount of time too. So when it comes to aging animals, we normally don't just use one thing. We use a couple of different sort of ways to identify them. I think it's easier to age the predators, in my opinion. But it's actually all very, very cold. It's got so hot here. It's crazy how we've just had this cold spell, and now it's all gone and the skies have cleared up and the temperatures are soaring through the roof. So I think for the next couple of days, we're in for some exceptionally warm weather, which is great because that means that the game viewing is just going to get better.
Yeah, the river is still flowing. Rather quiet here, but it's very peaceful and very pleasant. It's everybody's wish to be at a bank like this and observe, you know, what's happening, what is unfolding. And over here, I'm very fortunate to be the only one, apart from being joined by you over there. This is a very beautiful spot. We just realized we have more residents of the river upstream, and they all have come out. Looks like it's a family gathering. You know, grandma might be coming, so they're getting ready to maybe meet her or welcome her. Looks like lots of young ones, so I assume there is, you know, most of them are definitely mothers. Look, it's like it's a very healthy pod over there. Yeah, they all just came out. Romit, you asked about the hippo population in the Mara. It is very, very healthy. Very, very healthy. I don't know the numbers. I might be wrong to lie to you, but if I estimate, I would say I would give it a good maybe 3,000 along the stretch. There is a lot of hippos here. Every about 100 meters there is a pool, so we do have enough, and that is my guess. I might be wrong. It's just a guess. I hope you got me, Romit. Long time no see. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, that looks like a nice place to have a family, you know, gathering. Looks like everybody's gonna lie down. You can tell most of them are wet, so they just came out. Remember, this is a wild hippopotamus, and they do very well here in the Mara River, because year around there is water deep enough for them to submerge themselves so they don't get sunburn, and grass is very much available all around. Also cover is very much available, and also although competition is stiff, there is enough stretches of the river always for a new male to consider, you know, having a new, you know, pod or an area to dominate. Also, we have crocodiles. I haven't seen many on this at this angle here of the river. So, we might be seeing one soon. It look like they are starting to lie down. It has been the norm in the last, few weeks. Yeah, in the last few weeks, we have been seeing them come out of water and sunbathe. Maybe a scientist will have to come and tell us why, particularly this time of the year. We have been seeing lots of them in the water. In my days as a guide, I used to go for days looking for one out of water. But there's something happening this time of the year. And as I sit here, maybe it would be nice to remind you about what happens during the crossings and how they do it. And when I talk about how they do it, I mean the wildebeest, how they do the migration.
Nature coldly decides who lives to see another day during the Great Mara Migration. We witnessed a parade of life and death as the wildebeest started to make their way down in an iconic crossing. The remnants of the previous herd littered the banks. The cleanup crew of the bushveld, the marabou storks, picked away at the grave site of wildebeest. As the wildebeest crossed, they soon realized their mistake. Stuck and unable to make it up to the embankment, panic set in. Quickly, they tried to force their way towards the right, but they were faced with the same conundrum. Finally, a breakthrough, as some of the wildebeest snaked their way up and over the hill to freedom. But not all are so fortunate. The survivors on the bank looked back down solemnly to see if others would follow. But many do not. Restricted by the small space, the herd starts toppling down on one another. More end up tumbling down, only to be trampled by the herd. The trapped wildebeest soon realized that this crossing is a death trap. With relief, we watched as some made a U-turn back to safety. But to their dismay, the crocodiles showed up to make a meal out of misery. Desperate to escape, they started to dive into the water. Soon, more followed in this daring act. Jump after jump, it surely was a feat to see. Finally, another section of the herd breaks through. Exhausted, they flee to safety over the embankment on the right. The Great Mara Migration is one of the Earth's most spectacular wildlife events. This sighting showcased the paradox of it all. With the herds continuing to cross, it's only a matter of time before life and death dance again.
Yes, those are wildebeest, and they'll always be wildebeest. That's how they do it, sometimes in a very interesting style. And back to our hippos, looks like there's more movement. The one to the left there looks really like she's carrying a baby. Yeah, she's quite fat. I'm glad they don't understand English. I can use that word. She looks quite big. She could be carrying a baby. They carry the baby for about 7-8 months. After mating in the water, the little guy is born usually out of water, very close to the water on a bank. And it's introduced into the water almost, after an hour. They are able to circle underwater. The female usually segregates herself for a long period after about 3 to 4 weeks. At that period, she is very aggressive. You don't want to come close to her. And after that, that's when she moves back and joins the pod, still being very protective of the young one. Females of the hippo reach maturity at the age of about 6 to 7 years. Males take a little bit longer, and they live up to around 40 years. Remember, this is a grazer, and one animal that causes a high percentage of deaths in Africa in animals than any other animal. I think mosquito used to be number one. I don't know if it still holds that record, but four-legged animals, it's the hippo. And I would give you a few reasons why they do that. It's during flooding, hippos would find ways to keep away from the floods, moving into bushes and shrubs, small streams, and even man-made dams. We'll be coming back.
Well, we got so many different types of vultures in East Africa, and if you look carefully there, the two main species there, the ones that have like the black and the brownish white spots, we call them the Rupert's griffon vultures, and the other ones are the African backed vultures. Always going in big flocks, big numbers. And when I look at all the dynamics of the animals that we got in the Maasai Mara, the ones that I have the biggest respect for are the vultures. The vultures, as they've been considered as the cleaning crew or their garbage collectors, but the job they do, not any other animal would do. So without the vultures, I do not know how the Mara Savannah would be like. Laramo, good to hear your name, yes. And look at the marabou. I think, to me, Laramo, she's a young one, and she is not very lucky. If she was a little biggish, what they normally do is just to spread their wings out and try and intimidate the vultures, and that way they'll always have a chance to get a chunk of meat, pull it away, and go and eat it on the side, and once they finish, maybe they come back for more. Now, the marabou stocks are very good when they go for the internal organs. I'm talking about the intestines, which vultures rarely eat. Vultures will prefer flesh, which they try and like snew from the bones of the wildebeest or whatever prey has been brought down. But the marabou stocks are very good in getting the internal organs. So I do not know how old this kill is, but I would guess chances are it could have been a lioness or lionesses that brought the wildebeest down. Beautiful savanna of the Maasai Mara, and you can see from a distance we still got enough food for the predators in the Mara. On the move, and that's a very iconic site of the wildebeest migration. Single file, let's go. There could be like hundreds of them, but the way they live is like one single animal, and that is their strength. They are going more of, I would say, southeast direction from where I am, and east towards the Mara River. In general, always on the move, because that's very, very important for them to complete the cycle, which is always every year, before they go back to the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania for a little pause for 2 weeks in the month of February, where they go to calve. So most of the calves they got now are like, I would say, 6 months old. And they'll say maybe 1 out of 6 of them do not see the end light of the day. Along the way, they face so many dangers on the trek. Horslager, you are correct. You're saying they look like ants on a line. Not sure whether you know particular ants that we got in Africa. We've got two types. Sometimes we call the matabele ants, but here in Kenya, there's one particular type of ant that we call the safari ants. And that's how they walk, in one single line. I mean, that's a great comment, that they look like ants. And they keep going. Only that the ants, once in a while, they'll disappear in their nest, but the wildebeest will always remain on the ground. This is one sighting you'd want to stay and watch for a very long time. Going all the way to the horizon, you can only see one single tree at a distance and nothing else. I like calling this the joy of having an area without any visual pollution. Always such a privilege to be working or to be doing this almost every other day. They may not have a leader per se who is leading that group, but the small tribe, the small cluster they are, or small herd amongst them, but it says time to go. Once they move, everybody else follows.
Oh, you're back with us, Speaks. Here we go. This lioness is walking. Let's get the one in action. Sorry about that. This one has decided to come and join. This is the lioness who has been away from the pride, and we can see on her back legs all the little scratches. And there's a couple injuries around her tail. This is the young lioness. I believe her name is the Nick-eared lioness. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You'll see all those marks around her hips where she's been attacked. Each time she joins the pride, the evoker males have given her a very hard time. But the females are very happy to have her back. They're not too concerned. You can see that there's some love. And that was Purple Eye she just rubbed her face on. And Purple Eye joined us here as well and walked straight through here and was walking quite nicely without any limp on that back foot. So once it's warmed up and stretched, I think it works quite well. Return trip, you want to know if this is the largest pride in the Sabi Sands? Well, the Talamati pride at the moment is sitting at the same number, 8, 9, and 1 male. So at the moment, exactly the same. This is a pretty average, maybe a little bit bigger than normal, but it's a pretty sort of, a little bit above average, but it's quite sort of common to find prides in the region of 7 up to 15 lions. That's sort of the way it works. Well, the wind has suddenly got their attention. That is Purple Eye right there. Large prides get over the region of 20, and very large prides, mega prides, up to the region of 30. And those are really, really, really big prides, and they can only feed on very big animals. There's just not enough meat in the smaller animals to sustain them. But if they all come down, we're going to get them all in one shot, because there's a cub. He's going to come and plop it down right in the middle. Oh, hello, Mum. Yes, look at the bum, how the fur is all coming back around the bum there. That's a few days ago that all that fur on the bum was missing. And now it's, oh, I want some milk. And that is the youngest cub that's just joined. And that is her mum, Chella. Come on, Mum. She's trying to get access to the mammary gland, and Chella's going, no. There we go, denied access. Try the next, Mum. Moondust, that is a very good question. You know, the thing that goes on in lions and in many animals is all to do with drivers. And if the female comes into estrus, she might be more sort of attractive to him. but it's very hard for me to say. She should be coming to estrus soon. That is the way of the age. Those younger lionesses are all sort of at that age now. But we saw Mohawk a little while ago. He moved out into the open for a bit. He's going to move now, actually. And he's got, I don't know if you can get him, BK. He's now moving now, am I right? He's got a very badly injured right foot. And he is a true evoker now, with a limp. His two brothers have had major limps for a very long time. And now he's going to come and show us his limp. His right front leg is injured. I can't tell you at the moment how badly injured. As he gives us those crazy eyes, he's decided he's going to limp over here and come get into the shade. It's a tough life being a lion, everybody, and they pull down incredibly big and powerful animals, and that often can lead to injury, and it tends to happen on their feet. We've seen that with all three evoker males now have injured their feet quite badly. They tend to get over it after a period of time. Doesn't seem to be insurmountable. But what male lions have the benefit of is that they can follow the pride, and the pride will make a kill, and even if he's injured, he's still got the strength. He's just going to go behind the car now. Sorry about that. The whole pride is up on this side now. He's very interested to see what he's going to do. So he's just urinated behind us. The whole pride is going, what's going on? Okay, so he's looking at this lioness. She's the one with her head down. Oh no, that was Purple Eye. They're all very aware of his presence. Very aware of his presence, and at the same time the wind picked up. And so they probably heard him moving and they just couldn't help themselves but have a look. Okay, so the lioness who had the injuries, BK's has pointed out, she's moved off 15 meters behind us into the shade. She knew that if he got here, she was still here. He was going to give her a spanking. Unfortunately, she's moved off into the thickets and she's watching him quite closely. She's directly behind us, I'm afraid, so we can't show you. Kirsty, that's exactly the story, is that he will follow this pride. It's amazing when they get blood in their nose, how they can quickly learn how to run. He's limping because it's painful to walk, but as soon as there's blood or there's an animal to hunt, they can suddenly put a lot of pressure on it and they can move. And what he will do is he'll follow this pride, and when they make kills, he'll just beat them off the kills and take it from them for himself. That is what male lions do best. They are very good hunters in their own right, but they have the strength and the ability to push the pride off of kills, and so that is what he will do until he is back in strong form. He's very physical, and even if he's got an injury, he's still able to displace the entire pride, even just with the noise that he makes. Okay, so I think our last member of the pride is about to join. Coming in from stage right. This is one of the boys. One of Origino's boys, the two of the older cubs. You see how much bigger he is. Oh, a little bit of love. How amazing, everybody. I'm trying to count. It's very hard. $17. I get 16, and then I get 17. And I'm not counting him. Take a screenshot if you can and then count them. That's the easiest way. Interesting how that lioness saw him coming and moved off. Body language. They weren't happy that he was making a little bit of noise. Purple Eye gave him a growl. Obviously, they're not 100% happy that one of their daughters, has been displaced from the pride. And it's interesting how he has no tolerance of her. Kind of like when the evoker males moved in, they gave the Nkuhuma male the opportunity to leave or to die. And she went off with the young male, and so kind of like that, the males have said, you made your choice, you chose him over us. But it'll be interesting to see if she does come into estrus, how they'll respond to her, because with the drivers I was talking about, once the drivers kick in with regard to sex or hormones, then definitely that will overtake his need to chase her away. Hookerum, you want to know who guards the lions while they sleep? Well, there's no need for anybody to guard them. They are, in their own right, formidable. No one coming through here is going to cause lions any trouble. The only thing that causes lions to move would be an elephant. A herd of elephants would see these lions and would chase them, and they'd just move off 20, 30 meters, whatever it might be, and then find themselves another patch of shade. But a formidable pride of lion with a male with them, there's no one going to chase them anywhere. A rhino might come through, and they might actually be interested in a rhino, although that would be a very bad idea. Lions often will chase things that decide to run from them. But as you saw with them popping their heads up before, they can go from these moments of absolute slumber to being very, very active.
Welcome back. And I'm still here, same position. I hope you're having a wonderful morning. I don't know what time it is, but it is still morning for us here in the beautiful Maasai Mara. It's 22 past 11, and I'm still staked out here at one of the crossings, hoping that I might get a surprise. It's long, which is long awaited. Romit, thank you for your question. You do ask if the weather affects the migration. Yes, it does. And just talking about, how it does. If it does rain too much, it's either the wildebeest are gonna stay where it has rained more for longer because there is more grass, or stay, because they need to stay where it's dry when it's really raining. So they wait until the rains are over, then follow the grass. And while they're in an area, let's say, for example, they're in the Mara, if it does rain on one side of the river or a certain section, because we do get very localized rain, where you get a pocket of rain raining at an area of maybe 5 square kilometers or 10 square kilometers. These beasts or these animals can smell the rain, and so they follow where the rain is, moving in a very confused movement. You might see them on one area today, and tomorrow they move to another area. Then while they're in Kenya, it might rain in northern Serengeti, then they might head there. And a week later, if it rains in the Maasai Mara, they turn back and come. Depends on how far they are from the rain, but if they can smell it, they do follow it. So of course, the weather, the rain does affect their migration. And even in the previous years, you can tell that they do stay in certain areas for longer. They used to stay from June all the way to September. I'm hoping this year they will, because we've had lots of rain since last year all the way to almost June. So there is still plenty of grass. I hope they're going to stay. But the previous years they were staying for a very short time and going back. And at the moment it is still very confused to be, migration, because I had them here in the Mara Triangle in their thousands. Then they crossed to them, the Greater Mara, and I'm hoping they're going to start coming back today. Still, we're getting a bit of rain here and there, so they might come across this side. So that's my answer to you, Robert. I'm still with my resident hippos in that corner. Mind you, it's a very long way. It's a very long way, but with my camera, I am able, to zoom in and share them, having a rest.
Welcome back live to Djuma, everybody, where our lion pride has become a real, true puddle of lions. They're all here. And it's quite something to try and get all of the lions in one shot. Where the shade is where the lions will be. And the only movement I foresee of these guys today is as the sun moves around this tree and the shade changes its position. The lions all start moving. Already that cub moved because of the change in the angle of the sun. Puddle of lions, everybody. If you've never seen this many lions before, it's very hard to actually get them in one shot. It becomes tricky to even know where one lion starts and one lion ends. But the Nkuhuma Pride, we're very happy that they are back on Djuma. I'm almost 100% certain they're going to be right here this afternoon. All day, that is. I wonder if when we find them again this afternoon, the other male will have joined. That is Mohawk, his brother Blondie, is often quite close behind. So maybe we will find him. He's probably actually quite nearby, following the killing machines that are the Nkuhuma Pride. It's always nice to see the males with them, the protectors of the cubs. The new generation of Nkuhumas emerging. Might see them flicking their tails in their ears every now and again. That is the presence of flies on the body. Even BK is jumping around a bit. This time of year the flies aren't that bad, but they are attracted to the smell. And we do thank you all for joining us this morning on our CGT and Digital Safari. We hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be with you live again tomorrow from all of our multiple locations, same time and same place. We do thank you for your questions and comments. Have a wonderful day until tomorrow. We see you then. Good day and goodbye.